I'm leaving you in charge.
My response to email makes sense to me.
I didn't have a chance to read it. I was like doing other stuff and I was like, ooh, I think that was interesting. So I just shot it on. Okay. Oh, ignore it?
You know, I don't understand what it is. So
That makes sense, and that's why we treat it the way we do.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
You've been doing things okay so far.
Good. Good.
But I've been telling her.
Above and beyond, I feel like above and beyond is always the best way to go.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that you're not. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. Are you doing that?
No, I just using that little.
This is for the public, so I don't.
I can sit over here.
It's for them to see.
I'm not putting it, that's the problem, no.
So, no, but please come to in there. That's for you.
Desiree, do you know who we have on the phone now?
You have Miss Allard, Mr. Rivera, and Miss Saladell. And Miss Kennedy.
No, it's not. This is Alexander. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional copies. So if anyone wants to.
And Mr. Presbydia.
Everybody?
Okay, perfect. So, and Miss LaFrance, is that her? Okay, what, hold on.
Text it to her.
Are you a member of the public?
Yes.
We're gonna ask you to sit back here, please. Thank you. I just took it.
Miss LaFrance is on the team.
Up until we say.
Okay, wait, sorry, just 1 minute. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I don't have a script, so I'm going to kind of do the best that I have, and we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the March 18, 2020 special meeting of the Anchorage Assembly. We're noticed from 3 to 4 p.m. I'm guessing it's going to take a bit longer than that. Madam Clerk, I call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. LaFrance? Here.
Mr. Constant,
Here.
somebody to mute.
It's Cameron. So yes.
Could someone please mute their phone on the line, please? Miss Allard?
Here.
Mr. Dunbar?
Here.
Miss Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Perez Verdia?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Present.
Miss Quinn Davidson?
She's excused. Ms. Quinn Davidson is excused.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera?
Present.
Mr. Weddleton?
Here.
Miss Zalet out.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Dunbar.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have the land acknowledgement. Mr. Weddleton.
Land acknowledgement is a formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place. It is a public gesture of appreciation for the past and present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we now occupy. It is an actionable statement that marks our collective movement towards decolonization and equity. The Anchorage Assembly would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspectives of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you, Mr. Weddleton. Before we get started, I'll just take a moment of privilege and say, on behalf of the leadership of the Assembly and probably the Assembly, our hearts go out to the officer who was shot this morning and who's in the hospital at this point, hopefully recovering from the incident and had some pretty major surgery. And so our thoughts are with your family. Next, we have item 4A, which is under continued public hearings. We had before us on the meeting of the 15th, a conditional protest resolution public hearing. I'm going to ask the members, somebody to make a motion to change the order and take up item 4A1 first, which is 2022-80S, the substitute version, which is the actual protest. Because if we take up the conditional protest and pass it, we will have to go through the process for the actual protest. But if we take up the protest and it passes, then we wouldn't need to take up the conditional protest because they're actions that are contrary to each other. And one of them is more significant. So I'd ask for a motion to change order and take up 4A1 before 4A.
What's our status now? We never even opened this issue. We did. We had a public hearing. We
open it,
continued the
had
public
two
hearing.
individuals, yep, but I'm just asking us to change the order right now and take up 4A1 before 4A.
When did we finish the public hearing?
Thank you. Ms. Alatel, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Alatel, second by Mr. Peterson. I think that's what I heard. Yeah, we could do it either way, Mr. Weddleton, but we'll essentially have two public hearings. And if we pass the protest resolution, if that gets a majority, then I would ask for a motion to postpone indefinitely the conditional protest because it would be obviated. We wouldn't need to keep all the same people here to give the same testimony. So is there anybody who wish to opine, speak to the motion? Mr. Weddleton.
I guess walk us through the difference.
So
Do we have A1?
I got it.
We
I have
do.
it from our meeting.
we do,
It should be in that fat packet there.
should be in the packet. Mandy, do we have 4A1 available? Yeah, it's in the middle of the packet, page 40.
Page
Two.
42.
Yeah, page 42. It's there. So practically speaking, the difference is if we pass 2020 ADS, then that is us submitting to AMCO a protest of this license. If we pass 2020 80, it's us submitting a conditional protest that states after certain items are resolved, special land use permit, then the licensee can move forward. So currently we have before us the protest, the conditional protest, and I'm asking that we take up the protest first, because again, if we do end up having a majority supporting the protest, then the conditional protest is unnecessary and we wouldn't go through that public hearing. Mr. Weddleton.
Okay, so if AMCO approves a license or transfer, then there would still have to be a special land use permit.
Right.
Should they find this, move into this location? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay,
And that would come back before us, a separate item,
okay.
as would the license again. So it would all be part of the package. So before we have a motion, any further input? Motion is change the order of the day, take up the protest. Hearing seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll? Or I can ask, is there any objection to change the order of the day? Anyone on the phone? Hearing no objection, the order of the day has been changed unanimously.
Can you, sorry,
Mr. Weddleton.
thanks. I would mind, can you be real careful because we're talking agenda item numbers, maybe explain so the audience
Yeah,
knows
I
just what
will.
we're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
once we get through the process for sure. So having heard no objection, do you want us to take the roll, Madam Clerk, or can we? Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so what just happened, we have two items before us. One is a conditional protest. Conditional protest is a communication to AMCO that the assembly doesn't protest the license except there are some items that need to be completed. We've temporarily moved that item to the side and we're taking up the question of the protest first, because if the protest passes, then there's no reason for us to have a deliberation on the conditional protest because that would be no longer considered. And so we're taking up the protest first. And before we get started, Ms. Honest from the Clerk's Office of Licensing Staff has some information for us. Ms. Honest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to kind of summarize the public hearing process for the members of the audience and the assembly. There was a memo that was sent out to the applicant and to the interested parties regarding this process as well. So it basically went through expressing that the public hearing is regarding the protest of the transfer of liquor license 4531 for LED Ultra Lounge and Grill and 4551 for Tri Grill to be located at 420 West 3rd Avenue. Currently, AR 2022-80S before the Assembly is a denial of the transfer of the beverage dispensary license number 4531 and 4551 on the requirement for a special land use permit and for non-compliance with AS 04-11-410 and for public safety concerns detailed in the Downtown Community Council resolution. The Assembly held the work session on March 11th and gathered more information. Comments and documents have been sent to the clerk's office since. There is a late on the table AIM that will include this, that will be attached to AR 2022-80S. So the Assembly will consider this application in its administrative or quasi-judicial capacity and will follow the applicable processes set out in Anchorage Municipal Code 360. Staff's going to start with a presentation about the AR, and then LED will be given 10 minutes to present. A maximum of 5 minutes may be reserved for rebuttal at the conclusion of the public hearing if LED wishes to do so. The public hearing will follow, in which members of the public, including representatives of the Anchorage School District and Downtown Community Council, may testify in accordance with standards of the public hearing limitations, and staff may further advise the Assembly at the request. And the Assembly has the right to ask questions of the applicant or any of the other interested parties at their will.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So next, I'm going to read into the record an AIM, the title, so that it gets laid on the table. It's a supplementary item, so it won't need a vote. The subject of the AIM 49-2022, AR 2022-80S, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly regarding the state of Alaska applications for the transfer of ownership and location of beverage dispensary license number 4531 for LED Ultra Lounge and Grill, LLC, DBA Tri Grill, and beverage dispensary liquor license number 4551 for LED Ultra Lounge and Grill, LLC, DBA LED Ultra Lounge and Grill located at 420 West 3rd Avenue, Anchorage, Alaska, 99501, and authorizing the clerk to take certain action. This is providing a link to a Google Drive that has about 1,200 pages worth of documents, various communications from the community council, from the applicant, and other interested parties. So we did not provide multiple copies of a 1,200-page document, but it is available online through this AM. So, Madam Clerk, do I need to do anything else to lay this on the table? It's supplemental. Thank you. So this item has been laid on the table. So next, are we doing the applicant making their petition first before the public hearing or after the public hearing closes?
I can go over the AR for the members just to kind of refresh what's going on in it, where the documentation is. And then if you'd like to have the applicant come up and speak, they're welcome to do so. And then you would give ASD, Downtown Community Council, their opportunities, and then it would be open for public hearing.
Do we do it that way? Normally backwards, the other way, where we hear from the public and then hear from the parties. I can do it either way, but I seem to recall we usually do it the other way. Madam Clerk, Ms. Jones.
I think that there have been a variety of people that have been working, that's correctly, a variety of people that have been working on this, and I have not, so I believe Mr. Gates or Mr. Halpern would be able to tell you how they would find this honest about that.
Thank you. Mr. Gates.
How about now? Okay. So when you say typically we have the public hearing and members of the public testify first, I think you mean our usual regular agenda with public hearing items and ordinances and so forth. And that's true how we typically do those. And here the Assembly is acting more in administrative capacity than a legislative capacity, where we have that right to protest the issuance of a liquor license by the state. And we have our administrative hearing procedures in Chapter 360 of our code. So we have done this several times where the Assembly is substantively considering protesting the liquor license, and it follows the administrative hearing process in Chapter 316 more than it does our usual public hearing process for an ordinance. And so that's what we've done here, and we do that often when we have a very contentious matter like this one for liquor license protest. So this is, I think, more appropriate for this type of administrative hearing.
Just to clarify, what you're suggesting then is it's appropriate to allow the petitioner before the public hearing to make their case and then a rebuttal to that and then proceed to the public hearing?
For the rebuttal portion by the applicant, I think the chair can assume this question. Perhaps the applicant would want to say rebuttal for after.
I used the wrong term. So the applicant to make their case and then the opposing side to make their case and then a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll do that. Thank you. So, Mr. Alexander, you push the button, the green light comes on. You'll have, what was the time allotted? 10 minutes.
Less than about 10 years ago, of all the night bars downtown, 4 of them were owned by a Black or brown person of color. As of today, there are none, 0. It's because of groups like the Downtown Coalition of Concerned Citizens and groups like it. Within the Downtown Community Council, this group appears in large numbers to protest against those bars, to vote no, and to support a no vote for them to continue to do business. Of those 4 bars, 2 of them quit due to pressure from the DCC or others like it. One of them had other issues, and I believe they were forced to close. And now the DCCC is protesting LED to move their liquor license into the new proposed location on 3rd Avenue. The DCC rightfully has concerns regarding the issues that comes with operating a night bar. And me as a night bar owner, I own some of those issues. However, I do work very hard to reduce the problems that comes with it. And I have to say that I'm very good at it. I'm not perfect. There are going to be issues, again, coming with that particular type of business, but I do very well, again, reducing those problems. Now, my problem with the DCC is, and others like it, is that they turn a blind eye regarding other bars that has the same or more issues as they're protesting against, they have against the other 4 bars, to include myself. We too knows what goes on at the other bars, and I'm not knocking the other bars. I'm just simply stating that there are issues that come with it. And if you're going to complain about one, then complain about us all. If you're going to protest one, then protest all. Don't discriminate and separate us from the rest of the people. It's not fair to us. We live here too. They haven't protested in any of the other bars. Every other year, a liquor licensee has to renew their license to continue to do business in the proposed location. And every other year, for the last almost 8 years, I had to face the assembly because there were people to protest my liquor license. It was just the other week or several days ago, I'm looking at the Assembly's agenda, and there's several dozens of liquor licenses to be renewed. Now, I know some of those people that owns those bars. I didn't see them there, but I often know that I have to, every other year, come to prove myself worthy to stay in business to those protesters. And here I am now again. It's not right. My research, based on 8 years looking through the Downtown Community Council's meeting and minutes, the DCC has not protested another liquor license for renewal or transfer, although they've been transfers. And again, they have to renew every other year. But these guys, based in those meetings, have not protested or gave them the other places a hard time. There are approximately 40,000 African Americans and Latinos that lives in Anchorage. Just like the majority, we work a long work week and desires entertainment in the downtown area too, for music that we can relate to. We also like to bar hop just like the majority. Should it be suggested that we just open a bar on the Glen Highway in between Anchorage and Eagle River and bar hop from there because we're not welcome downtown? This location is one of the best options for a nightclub. I submitted to you the diagrams that shows the old location and the new location. The old location, there was more surrounding buildings. We were in between the Hilton Hotel and the Marriott, just to mention. We hadn't had any complaints that I know of in the last 7 years from those businesses, nor did they protest. The proposed building on the north and east side of the building is majority parking lots. And my main interest is I would like it to be the majority of the customers are coming in that interest on the parking lot. So it's enough parking lot where they're not necessarily having to park next to the Hilton or up and down the street. It's enough parking lot for them right there. So they would come in and go out. And it's just a better location. There's on the south side of the building, there's a long line of buildings, to include the Sunshine Mall, et cetera. So we're kind of self-contained the way I see it. It's a better location. And I want to add that, we have a great staff to keep things reasonably under control. One of the things I did, I believe it was emailed to the Mass Assembly, whereas I've taken, I think, several years of photos and videos. And of those photos, what I have to do, other bars may not have to, but what I have to do is I go out at the end of the night and I collect garbage, whether it's from my patrons or not. My staff and I, we do that. And I've taken pictures and many pictures showing that there's a clean lot when we leave. I also, my staff and I, we're out there at bar break. We might have several hundred people. Bar break is at 3 o'clock through 3 a.m. By 3:15-ish, 90% of those people are gone. That's because my staff and myself, we're out there getting people out of there. And to me, that's a good operator. And I'm not just saying I care for me. I know that I have to do it because if I don't, I'm going to have folks like the DCCC right there. Well, they're there anyway. So I have to minimize the reasons why they don't want me and others like me downtown. Although Mr. Bob Newman, who owns the historical hotel, likely he won't allow me to put my business, my bar business, in his hotel, like he did years ago, the old rum runners. I want to be able to have the opportunity to be in the neighborhood and do the same type of business. It probably is the same clientele that he had, but yet he doesn't want me to do it. I want to be just like the Avenue Bar. These guys are protesting my liquor license transfer. I want to be just like them. I want to be around the corner from them. I want to have the same opportunity as they have. It's not fair that this sort of thing is going on, and it needs to be brought to light. I went through this just to get a liquor license in my name back in 2014. It took me 6 months of fighting. And here I am today again fighting, and I do a good job. Excuse me, I do a darn good job. And for you guys to fight against me because you don't want us in your neighborhood next door to you, that's not fair, man. It's not fair. It's okay that someone else does it that maybe look like you, and you're okay with it. And so you turn the blind eye. You don't say, you don't protest them. It's not there. In the last 8 years, I've looked through the minutes in the meetings from the downtown city council, and there's no problems with you guys. But it is, and it shows, it's a fact. There was 10 of brown and black liquor license owners within the 10 years, and now there's 0. And you guys are comfortable with that, but I am not. And I think there's people here that is not comfortable with it. I have reached out to being proactive. I reached out to the back in October, this downtown city council, to tell them what my plans were. And my plans were to open up a nightclub. We were putting in a restaurant. There's a kitchen going there. It's permitted. The permits have passed for the city. So there's going to be a large kitchen in there. We're not just opening up a nightclub. And so I reached out to Steve at the at the Hilton Hotel. Is it time?
Yeah, we're running out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dunbar.
our questions.
It's on. Speak. No, so try this one.
These are too many that are turned on right now. So, okay. I'm just gonna ask you, is the questions appropriate for him now or at a different time after the public hearing?
I think it's probably better. The question is now a good time for questions, and I think that after is probably better. Yeah, we should get through the public hearing. There's a lot of people that want to be heard. So next, I think according to what I've been told, we can hear from the Downtown Community Council. And was it 10 minutes or 5? 5 minutes.
So is there a speaker from the downtown community council? Okay,
So I'm sorry. My understanding that we spoke last on the 15th that you can't speak again today at this meeting.
No, that's not the case. So this is a new public hearing for the new version, the 2022-80S. And so members of the public, all of your folks who spoke the other night can in fact speak again. It's a different item. And so they can't speak if we go back to the previous item, which is 2020-80, the conditional protest. So yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. Should maybe leave it here?
I think the slide is over.
Okay. So then you pull it, whatever. Yeah, here we go.
Go ahead and state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
I'm Doug Farris, Farris, representing the Downtown Community Council. We're not disputing Mr. Alexander's capability to operate a good nightclub or be a responsible operator. What we're protesting, based upon the location and the surrounding environment, the hotel, the residents, the school, the effect that it's going to have on those places. So Mr. Alexander can't control what happens outside his nightclub. So as the patrons exit and come and go through the night, they create disturbances in the neighborhood. Mr. Alexander, no matter how good of an operator he is, he just does not have any control over that. And we're protesting because of the proximity to the Hilton Hotel and the residential condos. Mr. Alexander introduced a new exhibit today showing the Captain Cook, the proximity from LED previous location. That's approximately 360 feet, which is quite a large distance from what the Hilton is from the new proposed location. It's 75 feet, the Hilton is from his new location, directly across the street. So the impact is going to be significantly more than his previous location. And as I want to address the rum runners, so the problems that rum runners had, and you're all familiar with them, those were after Bob Newman sold it to another party. So, and you've have all heard my speech at the Tuesday Assembly meeting. That pretty much sums up the rest of my rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then we have someone to call from Anchorage School District.
Good afternoon.
Hi there. Is this Principal Senior?
Yes.
Thank you, Principal Senior. You'll have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Senior. I'm the principal of Step Up through the Anchorage School District. I've been getting numerous phone calls regarding Step Up, so I'd like to confirm that Step Up is provided through the Welcome School for Anchorage School District students. Step Up is for the Anchorage School District's long-term suspended and expelled students. Students are able to continue with their academics until they can transition back to their home schools. And they attend at that location for a full day while it follows the ASD school calendar. We have a capacity of 22 students there. We provide 2 teaching staff, a social worker, and 2 intervention coaches, all of which are ASD employees. And it is not a place where we encourage students to go, nor are parents allowed to just send their students, which is why we don't advertise our placement there. Students must have a specific qualification to attend. And the inception of Step Up program began actually in 2009 in a different location. However, we've been at the Sunshine Building location since 2016. Thank you.
So, Ms. Senior, are you able to stick around, or should members, if they have questions to you, direct them to you now?
I can stick around.
This could go on for a while. We have dozens of people.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Dunbar is chomping to ask a question. Go ahead.
I just feel like it makes more sense to ask your questions now. You might be focusing over time.
Mr. Dunbar, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sorry, what was her name?
Ms. Senior, Principal Senior.
Principal Senior. Could you explain sort of the hours of operation for this school?
Yes. The school day for the staff begins anywhere between 7 and 7:30 a.m. We have different unions there, so it varies. The students attend, we have high school students that start at 8 a.m. and end the day at 2 p.m. and middle school that begin their day at 8:30 and end at 2:30. However, just because of activities that might begin before they're supposed to start or after that time, we might have students there, as late as 3:30 in the afternoon.
Can I ask a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm told we need to be very careful with our questions, not to push them towards debate. because of the nature of the quasi-judicial hearing, we should contain it to our debate. So you haven't done that so far, but just
Well,
I'm
I
cautious.
was wondering, there are a number of operating liquor licenses in that vicinity. Principal Senior, have you had conflicts with others like the Avenue Bar or the other bars that operate directly across from that school?
We've had conflicts. We do take the students out, so I know that this is about the location of the school. And there is a perimeter around the school that we do take students out on walks or field trips, but we do have a lot of patrons that surround the school or sleep outside the school, in other words. So I can't say that if they're directly from the bars, but we have had incidences where we have patrons where we have to keep the students safe from them until they're gone, or make sure they're escorted for their rides or walking. The students do not have busing there, so they have to get to the location either by a parent or guardian, by a city bus, or walking to the school.
And one last question, Mr. Chair. Could you, and I believe it's in your documents, but could you remind us when exactly did the school open? How long have you been in that particular location?
In that location since 2016.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Principal.
All right, thank you, Ms. Senior. Feel free to stick around. There likely will be questions, or if you want, we can call you back if we get questions towards the end of the process. But again, it's going to be quite a bit of time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, next then, I think the action is to open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. For this item, members of the public will have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the record. And what
Thank you,
part of
through the
town you
chair.
live
My name is Russ Reno.
in. Oh, hold on, Mr. Reno. Madam Clerk.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, you need to read the item.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and open
Okay.
the public hearing, and then could you please read the quasi-judicial statement?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Reno, 1 minute. I don't have my script in front of me, so I'm less prepared than I might otherwise be. This item is Anchorage Resolution number 2022-80S, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly regarding the state of Alaska applications for the transfer of ownership and location of beverage dispensary liquor license number 4531 for LED Ultra Lounge and Grill LLC DBA Tri Grill, and beverage dispensary liquor license number 4551 for LED Ultra Lounge and Grill LLC DBA LED Ultra Lounge and Grill located at 420 West 3rd Avenue, Anchorage, Alaska 99501, and authorizing the municipal clerk to take certain action. This item on the agenda involves an application for a liquor license. The process to review these items is different than the Assembly's legislative role because these are administrative quasi-judicial hearings and require the Assembly to be impartial, refrain from ex parte communications except in liquor license applications, and make a decision based only on the record before us and testimony today. The next item I've just read is the public hearing for AR 2022-80S. Now you have the floor.
Thank you. Again,
Wait,
Russ,
hold on 1 more minute. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, you changed the order of the day. So, which item do you have before you for the public hearing? Or have you defined the public hearing?
No, they're not combined. What I read was that this is the public hearing for AR number 2022-80S, the substitute version, and hopefully we have all of the pro formas checked off now. Thank you, Mr. Reno.
through Madam Clerk, I'd like to address today. My name is Russ Reno. I own Anchorage Downtown Tour Group. And you might have, what Robert was saying is passionate about how he feels, and I understand that. I was the one that took on Brown Bag initially because I was right next door to them and my business was so affected. They then launched a attack campaign on my business, putting erroneous bad reviews, which really hurt my business a lot because they felt that I was somehow attacking a bar of color or that type of clientele. That term, I hate that term because it's not what it's about. The clientele I speak of is that late night crowd that comes in from 11 until 3. It is not a crowd of color. It is not a crowd of just Anchorage young adults. It is not just military. It is just not white, just not black. It's a crowd of people that cause discord among the neighbors that are down there, and it's really it's not fun. For the first time after living down there for 9 or 10 years at Tourniquet Arms, I felt unsafe walking out in front of my house when all three of those bars that Robert spoke of, it's true. They were owned by people of color, and we did protest all three of those down there because of the fact that same crowd was going. I think they were following DJs is what it was. It was a crowd of late night screaming memes that were out there fighting fist fights. I watched a guy in a Mercedes coming out of Marx Brothers get just pummeled right in the face by somebody that came out of one of the local bars down there. Now, Mr. Alexander also spoke of why are we not protesting the other bars that are down there that are also having those same type of issues? And quite frankly, it's because there's not houses right next to them. There's not a hotel right next to them. There's not people living in their condo and losing money. Their value is going down because they can't sell their property because of the noise that's going on there, or you can't even get a good night's sleep with all the stuff going on until 3 o'clock in the morning. I get up at 5 a.m. I'm going to work by 7. I can't stay up till 3 o'clock every night with that noise and still, or having my windows broken or having people defecate in front of my store and things like this. This stuff really happened. There's footage of it. It's real stuff. And that's all I got to say on that subject. But I understand Mr. Alexander's passionate about what he's saying. I did just get off the phone with Mr. Ed Wesley. A lot of you people here in the crowd know who Mr. Wesley is. I worked with him for many years, and he gave me permission to use his name today. He does not feel that this is a racially moved situation here, and he wanted everyone to know that. I believe he also contacted Mr. Constance today as well, and I know that the people of color community are coming and expressing themselves to us, and I take that very seriously. If this or is found to be something of a color issue or of a racist issue, I want out of it. I don't want anything to do with it, and I don't feel that's what's going on here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for members of the public, we have a number of people on a phone list, so we're going to alternate 3 in person and 3 on the phone. So next member of the public in the room, please. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and the part of town you live in.
Hi, my name is Godfrey Gaskins. I want to first, part of town I live downtown Anchorage. I want to first start by saying I'm not representing the armed forces here. I'm here on a personal basis only. I want to go right into talking about the importance of inclusion and understanding the aspects of being a team player. When there's a problem set in place, the first thing you do is you identify problems and you provide solutions. Robert did just that. But when you're trying to provide solutions to a group of people that aren't listening to your solutions, then what do? One of the solutions was bringing back the old courtesy patrols from the military from back in the day when you had armed soldiers rotating downtown and walking in uniform to prevent things like people defecating in your yards or there being extra fights, because that's what we do as military. We support inside the country as well as outside. In that aspect, there's a thing called DISCA operations and understanding morale. So when we talk about morale is amongst soldiers as well as citizens. And maintaining morale is a huge aspect within Alaska, as the weather, as the sun, as a lot of chemical imbalances fluctuates and mess with people, genes and hormones. To be able to counteract that, we got to do things that allow us to get certain things out. And LED Ultra Lounge is not just a bar. It's an open mic night. It's a comedy club. It's a motivational speaker event center. It's a place for Polynesians, Black, Latino, LGBTQ communities to all come together to express themselves in an ability that they wouldn't be able to do it anywhere else. LED has been a staple in the community for those things. Additionally, it's important for soldiers to have that ability. As a soldier in the foxhole and understanding what it means to be a soldier in the foxhole and on the line, I know the importance of maintaining morale and having the abilities to maintain morale. So in order to allow soldiers to continue to support DISCA operations, which supports the entirety of Alaska in the event that Russia decides to take Alaska back. Robert, as an operator, is 100% the best operator I've seen downtown Anchorage. And I've been here since 2017, and I've ventured and I've entered every single bar and/or club in downtown Anchorage. He's the only one that I see proactively on the floor all night long, preventing issues. As a leader, one of the most principles, the single most principle you learn is you understand a friction point and you insert yourself in that friction point. Robert knows what the friction points are as it pertains to operating an establishment, and he inserts himself in that friction point before it's a problem. And if anything, Robert being in that location will bring more light to that area than less. I could tell my statements by saying that if not approved for this liquor license to be transferred, I see a huge step back in Anchorage morale amongst several different
Thank you.
communities.
We're out of
Thank you.
time. Thanks, sir. We'll do one more person. And Mr. Welton has a question.
Don't go away, sir.
Before you go away.
Mr. Gaskins,
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
did you say we used to have military armed patrols downtown walking around?
Yes, sir. It was a courtesy patrol, and Mr. Dunbar can speak about it because I know he wears a uniform as I do. But yes, sir. There's a rotational thing that Robert and I were working on trying to reinstate that, where every Friday and Saturday night they wear a big old patch and they say courtesy patrols, and they walk around downtown together and they prevent those things. And I think that's a huge fix to the issues that we have at state. So we have an issue, and here's a problem to rectify it, or here's a solution to rectify the issue.
So when did that happen? When was that done?
Oh, it was back when we were wearing BDUs. So it's been a while. So the Army went from trying to be a hard eye on the public. So we switched to ACUs pattern to be a little easier to the eye, and then we moved away from those type of courtesy patrols to make the Army user friendly. But we have to now go back to those things that worked. And one of those things is the courtesy zone patrols. And I think if I put a date on it, I probably would say 2000, 2001.
Oh, about 20 years ago. So, okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, that's interesting. I wasn't aware. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Again, one more member of the public, Mike, wants to testify. Come on forward. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and what part of town you live in.
My name is Gabriel Chanking. I live in the Abbott area. So today I'm here. I want to thank you, members, first of all, for giving us the opportunity to share our views, and also the downtown community to share our views regarding what is going on with LED transfer. I've known Robert for the past 10 years. I moved here in 2010. Originally, I'm from West Africa and Cameroon, and I moved here. And I want to speak a little bit about inclusion, the fact to accept people in your community. And I feel safe in Anchorage. I feel safe downtown when I go down there. And I feel safe in other locations as well, other bars, and the services I get in our community. Starting from that point, I became a business owner in Anchorage. And the city gave me an opportunity to start a business, and I serve the community as well. And I serve multiple clients at the downtown area. I own a medical transportation business. So I've known Robert for almost 12 years. Since 2012. And he's one of the only people that accepted my community when we had events. He accepted multiple times to cater for my community. And this is really great. I visited other places, but our kind of cultural approach, that's cultural sensitivity, they were not interested in the kind of music that we wanted when we had events, particularly when we had our annual events. So, and based on my recollection of what I'm listening from the downtown community, and with respect to what John F. Kennedy said, we might not agree on many things, but at least let's make downtown area a safe place for diversity, where people can come. Anchorage we receive more than 40,000 tourists every year, and predominantly from Europe. And I meet a lot of people that speak French as well. Primarily, my first language is French. So I meet a lot of people who share ideas, and diversity is something that I really speak to. And also with a mental health background, I know that people want to just go out, particularly after this pandemic. We want to have a place where we could sit down and feel that we belong. And that's Anchorage. That's the place that's always been. And to find out a business owner like myself is struggling to not sleep, to think after 2 years, do I have to go through this? It's not something nobody wants to check. Just like you having a credit card, go every day, your credit card is not even working or it's bouncing, thinking that you have to come to the assembly, I have to talk to these fine people here. Do I have a reason to be in business? And some of us have huge loans from the bank. and these are not guaranteed. So we don't know what to do if this license don't go through. So, and my recollection, there used to be a nightclub in that same building a couple of years ago. So what happened? What happened then at that time? Why wasn't it a problem to the guy ran out of business? Why is it now in that same location? And we're talking about the school. The school is well trained. I work with Anchorage School District. They have trained staff to manage these kids. At time of operation is during the day. They have teachers there. They just spoke about their staffing. They have clinicians on staff.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll wrap up.
Second.
Your time is up.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys for listening.
All right.
You guys have a blessed day.
So now we'll proceed 3 calls to the phone. Next, we'll call Mary Rolfing. So normally we call out to them. Okay. 1 sec. All right, so we will get everybody who's on the call-in list at least called once, but we do have 3 people that are in the queue that are on the phone. So next we'll take up the first one. Who is it? Ms. Serena Alexander, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. So you will have 3 minutes. Please say your name and what part of town you live in. Thanks.
Okay, hi, my name is Serena Alexander, wife of Robert Alexander, and our family is with District 3. I had a pleasure of attending the Tuesday night meeting, so my apologies for not being there, my absence for today. If we all had a thought of what an operator, a modeled operator would be, I would say that would be Robert and more. Robert has a big heart to see the community of Anchorage prosper. Anchorage is a big city that thrives on small businesses, and we love that we can be part of that. Robert has established and carried on a great relationship with many local businesses. Robert puts on nothing short of a hard work and dedication to see his work through is done with integrity and respect. Robert is the first one in and the last one to leave. The number of years that he's owned LED, there has been only 4 nights he's ever not been there. If you truly want someone to live up to the title of a good operator, he's done it. He's shown it. That is my speech, but I kind of want to address the principal of that school. I don't understand how she could get permission to have a school there, knowing in 2016 she's going to be surrounded by homelessness that is large in downtown, as well as the avenue that's close by, way before Robert even had a picture of moving into the location he's talking about now. So I don't understand how this is an issue. I also want to talk about a gentleman who said that he has a business right next to Brown Bag. Robert had an opportunity to reach out to many close neighbors within the business prior to him moving there. and no one had issues of the music that he was gonna play there, the level of the sound that they were gonna hear. Like Robert said, the entrance and the exit that these, patrons who's been very, was that my timer? I heard a beep.
Nope, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, have supported us in this community would be going in and out of this one location that is a lot more, contained than his last location. And he was talking about Hilton being, a Captain Cook being farther than Hilton. It's not correct, maybe by 20 feet. I think there's only a brown jug that is in between Captain Cook and LED. And, in fact, the people that would come there would park all parts of that neighborhood. And Robert has shown that he has less, conflicts or anything like that, when it comes to comparison to any other bars that have had shootings right outside their door, people dying. Robert has not had that history.
All right, Ms.
So
Alexander,
I'm very proud of what he does.
thank you. That is
Yes,
time.
thank you.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Next on the phone, we have who? Ms. Camacho? Mary Rolfing, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
All right, so please state your name for the record and you'll have 3 minutes. Name for the record and what part of town you live in.
Mary Rolfing, downtown. Robert Alexander submitted the following document in his own exhibit. In an email exchange between APD and Robert Alexander, APD states, quote, just because the address was used on the call does not necessarily mean the LED lounge itself was involved, unquote, referring to the 339 CFS calls from 2015 to 2021 to 901 West 6th Avenue. But in that same email exchange from APD, they state that from 9/26/21 to 2/27/21, a 5-month period after LED closed, there were no police calls to 901 West 6th Avenue. 0 calls. You can draw your own conclusions from those statistics. We are highlighting the impact of the surrounding neighborhood outside of our nightclub. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your testimony, Ms. Rolfing. Next, Ms. Camacho, we have third for the phone. Crystal Daniels, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
All right, Ms. Daniels, please state your name for the record, what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
Crystal Daniel and East Anchorage. I've worked with Robert Alexander since September of 2015. And from the moment that I started working with him, he made me feel like family. He made sure that I was safe. He made sure everyone in the club was always safe. I noticed that Robert always put himself first when it comes, not put himself first in that sense, but always, if there was like an incident that was happening and stuff, Robert was always out there. He was the first that was always on the scene, making sure everything was, okay, making sure the staff was safe, making sure the patrons were safe. Let's see what else. I'm so sorry. I wrote like so much about this, and I'm like very passionate about this club and about reopening the club. The club is definitely I can't even talk. I'm like so nervous. I'm so sorry. But okay, Robert is not only a boss, but he's also a mentor, a father figure to not only his kids, but also to the community. Robert is selfless, harmless, and is all around a genuine human being who would do and give anything to make sure that everyone is okay. I've had the pleasure of working with him for 6 years. And he has a very great rapport with the community. He always gives back. Let's see, he's a Black business owner that's not only trying to better the community and Anchorage as a whole. With the club open, people of all ethnicities can come together and have a safe place to hang out. The club isn't only a work environment, but he also treats everyone that he comes across like family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Daniel. Now we'll return to the room. We'll take 3 more in-person testimonies. Someone wish to speak, come please to the microphone. Welcome. Please state your name for the record and what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
Louise Williams, East Anchorage. First, I want to say my condolences to the officer that was shot and all my APD because I'm on the military side. And to the man that's sitting over here, I thank him for what he said, and I can understand his concern. Definitely. I'm a little confused about the lady in the school. Monday through Friday, Mr. Alexander has a restaurant. So all the students will be gone after 4 o'clock. So only time he would have a nightclub would be Friday night and Saturday night. And this is one man who does not play. He will make sure he escorts a lady who feels concerned about her safety. He'll make sure she gets there to her car. He always has. And I want to thank the council for taking the time for listening to him. I'm the one who emailed all the pictures of the venues because he uses his place for birthday parties, celebrations of life, and weddings. And I want to say thank you to you guys for taking the time and listening to Mr. Alexander because he is a very good owner. And this time when you give him his license, because I know you will take the time and visit the place yourself. And he will be very diligent and concerned about loud noises because he doesn't want to interrupt anybody else. And I can understand that. I really can. And I want to say thank you for taking the time for listening to him. And I appreciate you very much. Because right now, Anchorage, we're all in this together. And we're going to all get along together. And I say thank you so very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Can I make a comment?
Please, Mr. Williams.
I just want to appreciate the previous speaker, but we don't give licenses. The licenses are under the control of the state. Ours would really be just a comment to the state regarding the license.
Yeah, I would have made the same comment, but I figure we'll get to that later. So thank you for entering that into the record so people understand whatever action we take today does not grant or deny a license. That's simply not in our power. It's the power of the state. Next, we have more in-person testimony. Welcome. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and what part of town you live in for the record.
Please forgive me if I stand. I have a bad hip. Chairs are low.
You can lift that mic up. You can lift, sir, you can lift it up. There you
go. I am Lord Silverback Omega Prime. I'm head of security at LED. I've been doing this job since 1984 in Brooklyn. I got my first job when I was 14. I'm now 52. This gentleman to my left gave me my first opportunity when I moved to Alaska to provide for myself. I was homeless when I first moved here for 6 months. So I can attest to his generosity and his caring for his business. Like I said, I'm head of security. So anyone having any questions regarding to security at the supposed new facility, you're welcome to ask. We've taken measures and we have implemented countermeasures. So ask at your leisure.
Okay, Mr. Weddleton, again, we don't want to get into debate at this point, so.
It's not debate. This is for clarification.
Admonished to be very
So,
careful.
thank you. So you're security at LED Bar?
I'm head of security.
Head of security. Okay. So what area do you patrol, or where does your authority begin and end?
At the club, at the property it's at, under him.
Okay, just within the walls.
Well, outside too, because we have to patrol the outside, make sure everyone gets home and arrives safely.
Okay, so I guess how far outside? Half a mile, 100 feet?
To wherever the
10
jurisdiction for the club ends.
Okay. I guess I need to learn what jurisdiction of a club is. Thank you.
Yeah, this would not be the time for that part of the conversation. Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll have another in-person testifier. Please, next person come to the mic. Please state your name and what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
All right. Hello, my name is Kevin Allen. I live on East Side, Anchorage. I am from Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. I've lived here back and forth, half my life here, half my life in Alabama. I moved back in 2008. And ever since I moved back up here, I've always loved Alaska. And I thank you all for serving on the board, because I'm guessing that you all love Alaska too, because you do this. As far as the club scene goes, as a patron, I myself have been to every one of the bars downtown. I've been there when the bars were fine. I've been there when there's been incidents in the bars. I've seen security handle the situations. I've seen when security seemed like they couldn't handle the situations. Okay, with that being said, me also being an LED, as a patron, I've enjoyed myself. I've seen times when altercations happen and security took care of it. As a patron, I've seen Robert Alexander, the owner, handling the situations right along with security. With that said, also as working security, I've been in the security business for over 6 years now. I've worked for a lot of different clubs up here. And I worked for Mr. Robert Alexander at LED. Anytime there's an incident, we handle the problem. We handle the problem with finesse. No one is hurt. If there's an incident that we can't handle as staff, Robert will take care of it. And a lot of the patrons listen to him because they want to come back to the club. And they do. Also to mention, I got engaged at his club, right, in 2017. And it was a lovely, it wasn't even a club night. Mr. Robert had it was like a Valentine's Day thing. And he had a special singer from out of town come in. And it was a wonderful night. We really would appreciate it if you all would give him his license, but not just, well, not give him his license, give y'all motion for him to have it, but also that he wouldn't have to even go through this again, because we just want to have a place to come and enjoy. Not just me being Black or someone being white or someone being of another race, but we just all need somewhere to go. You all can come. I would love to be there with you all, and I would be at the front door doing security, and you all will see us, and you'll also see Mr. Robert right there as well, because he's always in the middle of everything. So I would just like to thank you all for listening to me, and you all have a wonderful day.
All right, now, thank you, sir. Before we proceed to the phone again, I would ask for a motion to extend the meeting to 6 p.m.
Move to extend to 6 p.m.
Moved by Mr. Weddleton. Do we have a second?
I only have 4:20 PM. Are we going to extend? Do we think we need to go to 6?
Look at all these folks here. We have to hear everyone who wants to be heard. So
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any objection to extend the meeting to 6? That's a ceiling, not a target. Mr. Dunbar. Okay, I'm hearing no objections. The motion is approved unanimously, and the meeting will be continued at least till 7 unless we finish early. Or 6, I'm sorry. Thank you. Sorry. I've been traveling this week. So I'm tired. I'm on East Coast time. So next we will have phone testimony. Ms. Camacho, anyone on the phone of the list? Okay. Kathy Egras, are you on the phone?
Yes.
Ms. Egras, you please state your name and what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Kathy Egras. I live on the south side of Anchorage, and I have known Robert Alexander probably about 8 to 10 years, and have found him to be a good neighbor, very helpful. I first met him when he came and painted my house at no charge as a favor to a mutual friend of ours.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Camacho, anyone else on the phone? Cedric Burden, are you on the phone?
Yes, yes, I am.
All right, thank you. Please state your name, what part of town you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Cedric Burden. I live in Midtown. I've been living in Alaska since 2002. I met Robert Alexander in 2010. He gave me an opportunity, brand new bartender. Not only is it a safe environment to work in, but he provides jobs for our communities. He does outreach programs. Also,
Thank you, sir. And we will take one more from the phone if we have someone.
James Allen.
All right, James Allen, are you on the phone?
yes, I'm on the phone.
All right, Mr. Allen, please state your name for the record, what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
James Allen, Eagle River. And a lot has been said, all good things. Robert Alexander open for business downtown is a plus for Anchorage and the state of Alaska. With a neighbor like that, with someone who is a prudent operator, I mean, several years ago, when we first started to go open to LED, and it was issues about the community didn't want another club open up there because of the antics or whatever the reputation was from Platinum Jack. And so he's proven his way that he is an operator. He is a person who cares about the community. He employs a lot of folks, so commerce is running. I think that if you grant permission, I know it's not for license, but whatever the Assembly's approval is to bless his license, I think that you will say that Anchorage is open for business for anyone and everyone, because that's the way I feel about Alaska. That's the person, one of the first persons I met in Alaska was Robert. In the military, and pulled up Fort Rich, February 10th, 1989. Me and my wife, Robert and Proctor, we've been friends ever since then. We're like brothers. And so we do everything together. And so if you're to shut him down, you also shut me down, because my business is D&D Productions. I'm the guy who brings the comedy show. I'm the guy who does Juneteenth really big back in the day. I'm the guy that brings the concerts to town, all the things that Anchorage loves and buys off. And then we have a place for the after parties at LED. So if you shut him down, you shut me down. And essentially, that's not how commerce works. And if we've been proven and we've been good operators, we should be blessed and say, amen. Let this guy open up and let's keep it moving to the next round. And that can be said without any racism or anything that attached to it. It's about good business. It's about commerce. And if we shut it down and don't allow them to go forward, then it has the feeling of a monopoly. And that's not good for any business. So let Robert Alexander have this day there, and let's vote yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll go back to in person. Actually, you know what? We have 2 more people on the phone list that I see. Are they on the phone? Did we reach out to them? We've reached out to them and didn't get them. Okay, then I'm going to conclude the phone testimony at this time, because that's everyone on the list. Let's just now proceed to the folks in the room, and that'll simplify things. So, and I'm hearing some reports that there's some audio glitches from the phone testimony. So just so the clerk knows, it's not germane to this hearing at this time. Next, please, who's the next speaker? Come on up to the mic. And push the button. The light will turn green. There you go. You state your name for the record, what part of town you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is ChristopherNcabo. I live on the east side of town. I used to work for the downtown Marriott as a night auditor, and I worked there pretty much like 6 days a week throughout the summertime. We never had no issues or many complaints from anybody that went to LED. You know, I don't know what else, but his club is more comfortable than all the other ones. Like Gaslight Avenue or any of the other ones. I don't feel as safe at Gaslight because it's just a bunch of rowdy people compared to them. I mean, like they said, Robert is there like every single Friday and Saturday when he's open. They talk to everybody, even the security. They're friends with everybody, you know, and that's why everybody likes going there. So to me, it's just more comfortable there. It's more homey, it's more welcoming than all the other ones. All the other ones just to me just seems too rowdy. We get more complaints from Willow's outdoor events than the other one, or than noise from LED when I was working at the downtown Marriott. But yeah, okay.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Next. No, but you could tell somebody to say what you want to say when they come
It's
up.
not what I want to say, it's what I just don't want them knocking other bars.
Yeah, that's, thank you. So Mr. Alexander would like people to know he doesn't want other bars to be. Thank you, sir. Next, member of the public, please. Please state your name, what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Yahaira Guardo. I live on the northeast end of town. I'm here to echo basically on his character as well as having him as a boss. He has, when I first got here in 2015, he did offer me an opportunity. I was previously working at the Aviator Hotel with my custody. But being an employee there, I noticed that he is very protective and he makes sure he provides everything he needs, not only to the staff, but also to the patrons. As a patron myself, I could see that we're safe inside and outside of the bar. He does, like Crystal stated before, he puts himself first in the matter when it comes to security as well as head of security. So he tries to diffuse and de-escalate anything that happens. And we know when there's alcohol involved, things happen. It's a normal thing. I mean, you're going to expect calls. It's not unheard of. It happens at restaurants as well. I witnessed it yesterday at 907 Ale House. You know, I'm not trying to knock him. I'm just saying issues happen. It's expected, but he always does his best to diffuse or help the situation. Like the others said, and I echo that, it's a home environment. He also provides a diverse venues for everybody. I mean, I work for the Department of Defense during the day, and a lot of military members attend LED, and they like it because of that, because he has a diversity and is of varying ages, because, you know, other areas don't have that flexibility. So if they continue to or allow him the license, I feel that it would help the city more than hurt the city by taking it away.
Thank you very much. Next, microphone's open. Please state your name and what part of town you live in for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Buzz Rolfing, and I'm a resident of downtown, right next to where Robert's planning on going. And I got to give Robert credit. He came to me and said that he was concerned about the situation. And it was like somebody I talked to said, it's not the bar owners the problem. It's the clients that come there. He can't control what's going to do it. Every time that bar opens in the evening, it's a crapshoot. Who's going to show up and what's going to take place? But I'll make a deal with you guys. I lived there when there was a club previous to Robert's. Once they leave that club, Robert's not responsible. He says directly, he says, when you're out that door, you're on your own. So I will call you every night. If you give me your phone numbers, when they come out and wake me up at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to get in their car, get away, squealing the wheels out, steering the red lights and the sirens, that's not Robert's responsibility. All he is a facilitator to make that happen. Any questions?
Quick one.
Thank you for your testimony.
No,
sir.
hold on.
Oh, Mr. Wellington.
Yes, sir. So I misunderstood. So what was the nightclub that was there before?
Millennium.
Oh, Millennium. And that was a problem, or?
Yeah, constantly, you know, we go downstairs and it's just sort of like Robert, he says, I'll make sure the sound won't be a problem. We had the same promises from other people before. And after a couple of months, all of a sudden it raised up. And when we complained, they just kind of ignored us. There's no consequences when they go off track and when things go south. There's no consequences for their actions. I mean, like in the club, he had one resident that was close to him. And if you look at the record, her name was Susan. She had multiple complaints and problems, but anytime she complained, no action was taken. So no consequences. Okay.
One question for you. Do you remember when the Millennium Club closed?
Well, I think I know who would know the Millennium. What, do you know when the Millennium closed? No, we're
Okay,
not
thank
sure.
you.
It's
It's
been
not- I can
been a
figure
year
it
or
out.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah, they did have little interludes where they come in on the weekends and so forth, but for all, it's been about a year, I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's been a bit longer than a year, but
been
probably
a
quite
few
a bit
years,
longer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Terry Russi, General Manager of the Historic Anchorage Hotel. For 17 years, I've been there, right west of the 420 West 3rd Avenue. It's not on the map, on those photos I see. I've been there for, like I said, 17 years, and any nightclub in our neighborhood is a nuisance. We've had a couple of them in the neighborhood, and these nightclubs, we always get numerous complaints, not only from a hotel guest, but also from our staff. They have to walk out to the parking lot, and the nightclubs were intimidating to them. Nightclubs are known for the trash, the feces, the drug paraphernalia, and especially the noise. In the past, we've had so many complaints that we dropped our presence on TripAdvisor. We went from in the top 10, we went down to 23. Some of the complaints were headlined, "Read the negative reviews. I didn't know, and now I wish that I would." Another one was clean, comfortable, friendly, and noisy. Another was the historic hotel is nice, friendly, but the noise outside is not worth the stay. We had so many complaints that people would check out days early, or they would cancel the reservation for the following stay, because most of the people, they come to the hotel, they go to bed about the same time as his club's going to open, 10 o'clock at night. And then they get the morning train, 6 or 7 a.m. to Denali, to Seward. And guess what? We're in the business of making lasting memories, and we get told that we kept them up all night because we're sitting there and not doing anything about the noise across the street. In addition to the schools, our guests are families during the summertime. All the tourists are families. They go out to the parking lot, and there's paraphernalia and who knows what else is out there. Right now, for the past, I would say 5 years, it's been quiet in the neighborhood. Whenever Hard Rock Cafe took over, I think there was a conditional use that they had to close at 11 o'clock. It was very nice for the neighborhood and our hotel guests. Right now, we are rated number 7 out of 100 hotels. Noise in our neighborhood would drop us again. It's not going to be good. Did that. The location, like I said, we are right across the street to the west of it. Our guests use that same Coho parking lot, which is shown on the picture there. Our guests would have to walk by the nightclub, and people in nightclubs, we've seen it before, they'd be sitting out on E Street, or they'd be out in the parking lots doing drugs and drinking outside, and the staff and our hotel guests would find bottles and such out there. The Historic Anchorage Hotel, on behalf of us, our guests, our staff, we asked that the transfer of LED Lounge not to be to 420 West 3rd Avenue to be denied. There's lots of other places in town.
Thank you.
Club can be.
We're out of time. Thank you. Mr. Welton.
Sorry, so the nightclub you're referring to was a Millennium. Is that correct?
And also Rum Runners,
Oh, because I was up the street just a little bit.
where the Hard Rock Cafe was.
Okay.
Across the street.
Oh, it's directly across there too?
And so is the LED proposals across the street.
Oh, I don't get out enough. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next. Welcome. Please state your name and what part of town you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
How you guys doing? My name is Jose Rodriguez from the east side of town. As a previous municipal employee for the last 16 years, the community prides itself on diversity and equality. At this moment, is not what we see happening in the night bar industry in Anchorage. We can't let groups like the DCC only target business owners of colors. If they're going to protest one bar, they should protest all bars in the area, like the Avenue, Gaslight, Pioneer, Willowa. LED has been closed since September, and there's still issues going on in downtown area, but the DCC ignores those issues. From a personal experience, I see Robert being a responsible operator. He does things that other bar owners don't do. He also makes sure that the environment is safe inside and outside his establishment. Also, as a member of the Latin community in town, I could attest that Robert is one of the only nightclub owners that gave us a place in his club for us to do activities, nonprofit events, and other things in that nature. Some that we have approached other bar owners in town and have been rejected. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Next. All right, please state your name, what part of town you're from. You'll have 3 minutes.
That's great. My name is Cliff Burnett. I live in South Anchorage. I represent several downtown properties also that we currently have. And I'm not going to speak to Robert's character. Everybody else is. I mean, I could go on all night about that, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. There have been problems in downtown Anchorage with bars forever, and everywhere in Anchorage. Even without Robert's bar, we've had windows broken or trash or urine and whatever happens. I think we pay for the downtown partnership to help out with those issues, if I'm not mistaken, and they do a fantastic job in our assessment. I do believe that Robert is a great operator. I've seen him operate in the past. I've seen what he did with LED. I also followed what he did to have to initially get the license for LED. And as he stated, and everybody else, every 2 years, you have to renew your license. I do not believe there's ever been a valid protest against Robert's license in the last 2 years. I do not believe that there's been a valid protest against any other license in downtown Anchorage, like the other bars. I'm not knocking them, but the Avenue and Willowa and all those other bars that have the same problems that come with a bar. I've had the privilege of traveling to almost every major downtown in every major city in the United States. Downtown has bars, it has retail, it has living, and they all coexist. And so for people to complain about possible noise being downtown, that's where we live. That's where you live. That's where we do business. And that, I think, is expected in a downtown community. That's what makes it thrive. I just would like to support Robert's transfer, give him a chance. You have 2 years after that to come back with problems and revoke it at that point. How long do I have? 3 more minutes? One, I would like to say the lady that called that said Robert painted her house, that lady works for me. She's a single mother. I was helping her paint her house, and I told Robert I was, painting her house, and I hate to paint. And he goes, let me come knock that out for you. And he just helped her out. That's the kind of guy he is. I met him painting my house, and it's a great story. But he's just a great guy. He's a great person to have in the community. And if he wants to do this bar, he's going to do it very well for our community.
One question on that. That's a so do you represent properties downtown?
I
Can you
do.
speak from that experience?
Yes.
So you're like, you're a realtor and you rent them or you own them?
No, I manage properties that are owned by personal people, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Quite a few of them, 4 of them actually in downtown. All right.
Next, please state your name, what part of town you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody. I'm Celeste Hodge Groudon, and I am the president and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus. The Alaska Black Caucus is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that champions the lives of Black and BIPOC communities in 4 core areas: education, economics, justice, and let me repeat that, justice and health. Today, I am here to, first of all, share from some testimony that I heard that this has nothing to do with race. I am going to share with you why I differ on that, and that is because we know that the same rules don't apply to the same folks. In other words, Mr. Alexander testified that originally there were Black and brown individuals that had licenses downtown. And unfortunately, they're no longer in existence. They no longer have licenses. Why is that when the same rules are treated differently to individuals or businesses because of race. I mean, I know we don't like to talk about this. We don't want to hear equity and we don't want to talk race. But how else do you explain it? So I just would like for somebody to explain it to me how rules can be applied differently depending on who you are. Because that's what I see. I don't know the Downtown Community Council, but I do have a question. And that is, what is the diversity of their makeup? I believe that when we start including people in the various groups, we can come out with different resolve. I mean, I believe we can resolve a lot of differences because the makeup is diverse. I don't even think we would be here if there was diversity in some of these groups. Or that's one reason why we are advocating for diversity even on the Anchorage Assembly. And I'm talking about racial diversity, racial equity, because you have to look at these issues with your equity lens, because when you don't, you'll miss it. You have to put on the special lenses, and I understand people don't like talking about this. Is that the buzzer for me too? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. Go, Robert.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgegardner.
No
Ne-
questions?
Next. Please state your name, what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Gloria Reddick, and I'm from the South Side of zoning. I reside here in Anchorage since the early 80s, and I'm a homeowner, pay my taxes, work hard, and put in for this community. As a Latino representing my culture, I've also worked in the Providence for almost 20 years. And one of the things that I realize, most of the Latin Americans that are here in our community are so far out from their cultural, natural place. And we strive for, how do you say that, cultural setting. So where we can actually release some of the stressful work days and find a place where we can call comfortable, soothing, relaxing, so we can go back on Monday and start all over again and keep working hard. And Alexander or LED has provided that. I'm a promoter, which I decided to do that as my new job. As a promoter, I need a venue. And Alexander has done that with open arms. I can't bring what I'm trying to do for our community, for our economy, for everything that we put in every day. But he had opened the doors for us. And that's one of the biggest things. It's very important to look at. We're all working together as one. We're putting all our effort to our community, our diversity community, where our kids are growing up, where I'm putting my money into the school district, the police department, wherever my money goes to. Break it down. Let me know how my money is working. And one of the things is, I've been in his club a couple of times and I was happy how people enjoy it. Elderly people are there, not just young kids. His management skills are very, very professional and very comfortable. I travel the whole world, and wherever you go, if you're downtown, it's going to be loud. You rent the best hotel. You have the quality of the hotel, but you don't have control what's outside. So we got to look at that. If we want the economy to grow here, we have to have a place where other people come in and enjoy the lifestyle, like the music, the cultural stuff. He's going to have a restaurant that's also good for him, good for our community, good for our economy. I also worked in the Delta Airlines, and they're looking for a place like him, a place like LAD, so they can come enjoy the
Thank
evening.
you. All right. Next member, please come on up, state your name for the record, what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. My name is Angela Wilson from District 5. I am not going to repeat all the accolades because I'm sure it'll just add more awesomeness to the situation. So LED is the closest to a high-end venue in comparison to the other nightlife venues that caters to the urban and urban adjacent patrons. Fights, noise, cops being called, cars being towed, the hot dog stand by Town Square, the musicians playing for tips, people walking barefoot because their feet hurt, seeing soldiers trying to find true love to move out of the barracks, folks sleeping on the benches or grounds is not new when you indulge in the downtown nightlife. What is new is all this energy that the Downtown Community Council is using to prevent LED from opening at the new desired location. Yet no one is discussing the murder of Mr. Carl McGray outside the Gaslight Bar. Mr. McGray, a single father that did reside in Mountain View, was a patron at the Gaslight Bar and was murdered by another patron at the Gaslight Bar, a member of the U.S. Army. The Downtown Community Council could be using this energy to see why was Anchorage Safety Patrol called and not the police when Mr. McGray was left on the ground unconscious. I have a dear friend, Laura Foster, tribal member of the native village of McCurrick, lieutenant in the Alaska Air National Guard, mother and wife and advocate that would love to hear your thoughts since these are such concerns about safety with LED's proposed move up the street. Any questions? All right, take care.
Thank you very much. Next person, please come up, state your name and what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Melissa Thomas, and I'm technically homeless. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and I've known Robert for 15 of them. And speaking from somebody that has served him from other venues, he's always been respectful and professional. And then to go and work for him, he's even better to work for. He's really organized. He protects all of the staff. He definitely makes safety a priority. I think that LED would be an asset to downtown because it offers a different atmosphere than the other venues that are available today. And also, I think the location is great because the parking lot is the only issue that LED had ever had previously, and this open parking lot would make it easier to make it organized in and out. I would appreciate you guys letting LED continue their license. Any questions?
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Come on up, sir. Please state your name for the record and what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Lee Anthony Jenkins. I live, I guess, Sand Lake area. I'm not sure what district that is. So thank you guys for the opportunity. So good afternoon. I'm a branch manager of 12 years for New Vision Federal Credit Union, landlord, business owner, and a veteran DJ in Anchorage who has DJed multiple bars, whether downtown or outside of downtown Anchorage, current or closed. There is no other operator in the city that I've seen myself being at many bars, downtown, Fairbanks, who himself oversees security directly and oversees his patrons directly day in and day out. There is no bar that I've DJed at in Anchorage that specifically upon bar let out makes sure that security clears the parking lot, people are not lingering, but also all trash and any other disturbances surrounding the property are taken care of well until 4 a.m. This is operator that I've seen specifically stay 4:30, 5 a.m. Sometimes me waiting to get paid at the sacrifice of that, but just to make sure that people are taken care of and that all disturbances are removed. during the peak of COVID and its restriction, Roberts was the only bar owner that specifically that I knew that actually had a decibel meter inside the building to make sure his DJs didn't go above a certain amount or level, which was very annoying. But it was his attempt to make sure that he was following the rules and not violating any restrictions. So this is an operator that to me shows that he has the ability and the willingness to make sure that things are taken care of and follow the rules at the expense of sometimes of his clients, but to make sure that he's not violating anything. His main focus is to prevent disturbances caused by guests and limit the amount of issues inside and outside his property. To me, this is the proof of his ability and motivation to mitigate any issues that may arise from operating a business. So as a veteran DJ and businessman myself, I'm not sure or understanding why a specific bar is being targeted when he has already proven a solid track record with minimum to no violations, and unsure of why other bars operate in the same vicinity protest the same businesses but have less discipline to operate their venue. And just to note, without mentioning other bars, the level of guidance and supervision Robert has provided has prevented some of the worst incidents that you've all seen, even most recently at other businesses. And to me, that is proof enough. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next, please come on up, state your name, what part of town you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kevin Collins. I think you guys heard from me a couple of days ago. And I think it was important to return when I understood that I could speak again. I think we've already restated and stated again the importance of, having an environment, having a place that people can go, and the importance of having an ownership that is present. Robert has definitely shown the example. There's a lot of bars that's out here that you may not even know the owners. I think if he were to be absent and just said Robert Alexander, I think that's a name that probably could have flown without any hiccup, but because he is present and because he is a person of color, he has the problem. But rest assured, this is somebody that does care about the community, does care about the people, not just people that are paying him, but just people that are around. With regards to the community, I think that this will be value added to the downtown area, because there are people that come into Anchorage looking for a place that they can feel a part of. Having a place that allows for events outside of just night party. Like we do comedy sessions, you have spoken word section, you have other type of activities that is inclusive of pretty much every race or color that you may want. Right now, we don't have that. We have Gaslight. We have Pioneer Bar, we have Willowat, we have 4th Avenue. You can't even go in there and request the song that you want to listen to, because the DJs there, they don't cater to anything outside of whatever they are already focusing on. You have places that literally don't really want you there. So what it is that we are fighting for is to have a place that will be inclusive of Black and brown people, but also everybody else, because everybody want to turn up, right? And when I say turn up, I feel like there's this room don't really understand what that means. That means that there is an opportunity for a location that will allow for military folks that are asking me questions every week, when is LED opening? But they are out at Gaslight because they don't feel comfortable there. They don't feel like they are hearing the music they want to hear. They don't feel like they are free to do what they want to do. You have Latino people, African people. I have had an event where literally for African to come in and listen to Afro beats. You cannot get Afro beats at Gaslight. You cannot get Afro beats at Willowat. That's a whole segment of our community that we are concerned about, but that does not have a place to go to feel like they can have a good time. So I'm advocating for the transfer so that we too can be included in the downtown activity. We are not at this moment.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Next, please come on up, state your name for the record and what part of town you live in. You'll have 3 minutes. And if you want to speak, please come up and line up next to the wall over here. And thank you, ma'am. You have the floor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pamela Ramsey. I live in the Fairview area. And I just feel like I don't have a place to go for entertainment. I knew Robert when he was on Gamble and when he moved downtown. And I don't get it why there is that he's already down here, but on an end. It's kind of like having a train track. You actually are going past a train track, and that's what you see as far as not being inclusive. Nobody wants to talk about color, but each and every day we walk in the door, that's the first thing that somebody sees about us. I don't want to feel like that. I live in this community too, and I want to be a part of it, every part of this city. I've been here since 1993, and I want to see something done about things that are not right. So I'm here to support him, and I'd like for you guys to support him too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, come on up. Please state your name for the record, what part of town you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Press this?
The green, it sounds like it's on. Go ahead.
Oh, it's good? Okay. Hi, my name is Aviva Karen Class, and I am here today in support of the Assembly protest of AR 2022-80 regarding LED lounge transfer of location. I'm a member of the Downtown Community Council and a property owner of the building located next to the proposed location of 420 West 3rd Avenue. We recognize that the Downtown Community Council and the Assembly have had to face increasing public safety challenges in the downtown business district area of 3rd and East Street due to the destiny of residential homeowners and hotel beds. Because this section of downtown is so densely populated with residential units, there are certain types of enterprises, such as those with a nightclub profile, that offer entertainment past 11 o'clock p.m. and are operating late on nights and weekends, that have been determined by the municipal code to have negative impacts surrounding land uses. We are not opposed to bars and restaurants at all. The problems that occur with the nightclub is that the entertainment continues past 11 o'clock p.m. and the patrons have 4 more hours to drink and get rowdy. When bar break happens, they take it to the parking lot, which in this location would be the parking lot for the school. Inevitably, there is concern that arises from the nightclub profile as it brings an increase in noise and public litter relating to drugs and alcohol. For those reasons, I can completely understand why the Anchorage School District is opposing this transfer as well. As a previous educator myself, I am always thinking about the kids first. We have families who reside in the area, as well as the ASD school located next door. That school is for troubled teenagers from McLaughlin Youth Center. They already have challenges that they are facing. The kids and teachers from the school should not be forced to be exposed to trash, beer and liquor bottles, needles, crack pipes, and other drug paraphernalia in the morning as they go to class. Regulations are in place for a reason. Please help us keep downtown safe for the kids, educators, and residents with families and our guests from the surrounding hotels. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Excuse me.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone at all? Hearing, seeing nobody, public hearing is closed. What's the will of the body?
Move to approve the S.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We Ms. Allard, so moved by Mr. Welton, seconded by Ms. Allard. The motion is before us. Anyone wish to speak on the item? Okay.
You know, I have some questions.
Mr. Welton first. And I have, please text me to get in the queue.
Okay, well, I have, I think a variety, some maybe legal stuff, but then could I ask one of Mr. Alexander?
Please.
Okay.
You are
So, Mr.
recognized.
Alexander, you might want to move to the mic. Just reading in this packet somewhere, I saw that. So this would be a transfer of ownership and location, but you would be okay if it were just a transfer of ownership and we wait on the location? It's somewhere in there. I thought I saw that.
Not for me.
Okay, so the answer is no. Okay, thanks.
And Mr. Welton, I might add, Mr. Gates and I had a conversation about that. Mr. Halloran might wish to opine as well. Haven't brought it to him, so I don't hate to put attorneys on the spot. The question was, could we divide the two questions? The question of the transfer of ownership and the transfer of license. But I believe I was instructed that because the applications came in as a whole, we can't take it upon ourselves to divide the application and can only address it in the context that the application was presented. Mr. Gates, is that an accurate assessment, or Mr. Halloran?
I can answer that for Mr. Halloran. Essentially, yes, you received two different applications for two different licenses. Each one's the LED and one is the Tri-Grill, I believe. And as to each of those applications, they cover both a change of ownership and a change of location. You cannot separate out the change of ownership from the change of location. They're within a single application. And so whatever comments you send to the state are going to be as to that application.
Can I follow up?
Mr. Weddleton.
Okay, well, that leads to a different question. So were we to approve this protest, does it point towards him potentially losing the license completely?
No, you're essentially saying is it's written in here that you don't have an objection to the transfer of ownership. And as to the transfer of location, there are two essential problems. One is the location of the school, which the statute prohibits a transfer to that location. The other is your land use process has not been completed. And so the land use process from the municipality's view should be completed before the state would act upon a transfer to any particular location. But you're not protesting the license itself and continuation of the license, only the transfer to this specific location.
And that was Sean Halloran, who's new attorney for the municipal legal department, for those who were asking who is that. And so welcome again to your first assembly meeting, as special as it is. Next, I have Mr. Dunbar. Are you done, Mr. Welton?
No, I have quite a list, so you might want to go around.
Yeah.
But I do want to follow that up though slightly.
Okay, quickly.
Okay. So, well, looking at the S version here, I thought we pulled away the special land use permit issue because that was predominant in the first one. Now it's mentioned
did.
here on line 40 of page 3, but that is under a section that is not checked.
Right, we did actually take that part out in the AM. I believe it speaks briefly to that issue, but we decided to narrowly construct the protest specifically to the issue of the school building.
Okay, so we are not addressing the land use
You're
permit
looking
at all.
Page 42 and 43.
Wait, Mr. Gates, everyone's shaking their head now, so maybe I got it wrong.
If I may, if you look at page 44, the ADS version at the bottom, paragraph 1, that describes that it has special land use permit has not been obtained. So that is part of one of the grounds. The next page 45 has number 2, number 3. There's 3 grounds for protest listed here in this resolution that's proposed.
And it's not substantive as to the land use issues in terms of what you have here. It's the process he still needs to go through the municipality's land use process, whatever that may entail. And all you're objecting to in this is that process has not yet been completed. So you're not saying, this issue or that issue with land use goes in any particular direction, only that there is a land use process that has not yet been completed.
Okay, and I think that's pretty common. The way I read this, you have A, then you have 6 check boxes, but the 1, 2, and 3 don't rely on that 6th checkbox being checked. Is that correct? I thought it did because it looks like it's underneath that. But what I'm hearing is it doesn't. Do you follow me?
To restate that, if you look at the document, the numbered items 1, 2, and 3 relate to the checked boxes, not the unchecked boxes.
That would be correct.
Okay, so because I just think if you don't check one next to public health, those still apply, the 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Okay, I thought they were subsidiary to it, but that's wrong. Okay.
Yeah, they're subsidiary to the checkbox sections. Yeah, we have Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Rivera, Ms. Allard in the queue. So Mr. Dunbar, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And like Mr. Welton, I have a couple of questions for the attorneys. So, I'm trying to really absorb what we are doing here and why. And to me, with these, I always want it to be, strictly sort of a legal question, right? It's not really our opinion. It's a legal question. And so, because we're operating in our quasi-judicial capacity here. Looking at these there's a lot of citations in here, but I don't have a photographic memory when it comes to which is which. Which of these sections specifically refers to the school distance issue, the state statute? And then I think that is section 3. Maybe not. So that's my first question. Oh, I see. There's a subsection 2 underneath A. And then can you briefly summarize? So we've checked 3 boxes here: concentration and land use, operations procedure, public safety, and we refer to 21.05020 and 10.50.035. Can you briefly describe what those citations refer to? What part of the law and what they say?
21.05020 is going to include the schools issue.
And so I should also be clear, is that an Alaska statute or a municipal code? It's an Alaska statute, right?
No,
it's city.
That's the municipal code.
Okay, so
Title 21 of the municipal code.
Okay, I was under the impression that the state law was the school issue. You're saying it's also in muni code?
Both a state law issue and a municipal issue.
No, I've got a planner shaking his head behind you.
With respect to the state law issue, that's what's precisely before you in this right now. With the state law issue, you have Alaska Statute 411-410 says that no license may be transferred to a location that is within 200 feet of a school grounds, measured from essentially the boundary of the property, the school property, to the door of the proposed licensed establishment. And that would be measured by the shortest walking distance that you could have. The municipal reference to a school is going to be that for a nightclub, if it's unlicensed, it cannot be within 300 feet of a school, measured from property line of the establishment where the license would be transferred to the property line of the school grounds. And that's about 20 feet in this instance. I'm not sure the exact distance, but it's less than 200 feet for the state law issue.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Ms. Honest.
Through the chair. So the 21.05020 is the general requirements for land use permits. So it talks about the concentration of the area. It talks about the characteristics. So this would pertain to the special land use permit, the process that it would go through. The issue of the unlicensed nightclub was the part that the work session went over, and the body decided they wanted to remove that from the AR as part of the protest because it wasn't applicable.
So to put it in general terms, the special land use permit is there because it's not yet done in any case, not related to the unlicensed nightclub. Is that a fair assessment?
Right. Can I ask a follow-up?
Please, Mr. Lamar.
So I understand, I'm just making sure that we're sort of saying the right thing in this AR. And number one on line 43, number one on page 3, that's factually accurate. The SLUP has not been issued. Number 2 is also factually accurate, although perhaps not in our purview. It's a state law issue and we are flagging it for them, but we have no control over it, right? I guess number 3 is also factually accurate in that they have provided that to us. But if you go back to the previous page, there are these 3 check boxes, and those are kind of what I have the most issue with and what I don't think I'm comfortable with right now. Concentration in land use, and this is an area that already has, or a number of other alcohol licenses has moved in or been approved, and we've never had this issue raised to my knowledge. And then the other 2, I don't have quite enough understanding yet. So they're both based on 1050.035. And so can Ms. Honest or, I'm sorry, sir.
Sean Halloran.
I apologize. So can Ms. Honest or Ms. Halloran speak to that code reference and what it applies to? Is that the general land use provision you were talking to, or is that the 21.05.020?
Through the chair, the 21.05.020 is the general land use permit requirements. And that is one of the protests is the procedure that needs to be completed. For the other check boxes, those pertain more to the information that was supplied by the Downtown Community Council regarding the concerns of public safety. And then the operations would be the public safety concerns as well as the distance to a protected use.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'm going to look up that code set myself, and other people I'm sure have lots of questions.
And just one more point for further clarification, each of those refers generally to the fact that the land use process has not been completed yet.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions on that, but first we have Mr. Rivera again, Ms. Allard, and myself in the queue. So Mr. Rivera.
Thanks. I think like several others, I have quite a few points and questions. But I'm going to start with the legal stuff, and then I'll probably get back in the queue to do some of the other stuff, including talking about race, because I'm not shy about that, even though it gets thrown in my face a lot. Okay, so first is some of the legal stuff. So I think Mr. Wellington asked this question, but I just need to get it repeated just to make sure I'm fully understanding. So can someone please speak to the difference between, I'm looking on page 44 and 45, between the 3 check boxes and the 1, 2, 3 below them? Are those all grounds? I guess, yeah, that's my first question. Are all of those grounds?
The checked boxes are essentially categories under which you're protesting. The 1, 2, and 3 are the specific grounds on which you are protesting.
Okay, so essentially they're all linked together. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so then I guess for me, how is a resolution from a community council considered a grounds for a protest? I mean, we've gotten plenty of resolutions from community councils, and they are upset about a particular operation, but it's never the resolution itself that's the grounds. It's the evidence that is the ground. So can someone help me understand that?
Essentially, what you're saying is that the Title 21 land use process has not been completed. And in that process, there is in fact an issue which the Downtown Community Council has raised, and those issues have not been resolved by your land use process yet. You're asking the state to not issue a license transfer to this location until and unless the land use process has been completed. But you're essentially alerting the state to the fact that there are issues that have been raised by the Downtown Community Council that will be addressed in that process.
Sure, I get what you are saying that we're saying. It just doesn't look like we're saying that. It's quite confusing to me and likely to members of the public and others. So then I guess my final question for now, because I know we have probably quite a list, is so let's say the assembly does approve this protest. What happens from here? Simple approval of this protest by the assembly doesn't mean that the license isn't going to go through. The ABC board could decide to ignore our protest. So could you just walk us through that?
I don't believe that the ABC could ignore your protest where one of the basis is that it's next door to a school. They have no discretion in that regard. If there's a school there, they cannot lawfully approve a transfer to that location on that grounds alone. The land use process, I would assume that they would say that they will not approve a transfer to any specific location until the land use process has been approved, but they could, and I would suspect that they would, allow a transfer to no location, and pending the outcome of a land use process that defines some other location not next door to a school, they would allow that process. I would anticipate they would allow your land use process to play out and then review his application again with respect to any other location that he may choose. But I would anticipate they will deny it as to this location for so long as there is still a school in the Sunshine Mall.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And then I have Ms. Allard in the queue.
Thank you. This is for Mr. Alexander. I don't know if I can't see, so I don't know if he's up at the mic and he can come on.
I am.
Help me out with this one. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you don't have a liquor license, is that going to affect whether you open or not?
I'm sorry, state the question once more.
If you don't have a liquor license, will that affect whether you open your club or not? I have a follow-up depending on your answer.
So the way I understand it and what I try to do to be proactive, there's two ways you can have a nightclub. One is an unlicensed nightclub and the other is a licensed nightclub. So being proactive, I tried to apply for an unlicensed nightclub, and that was denied through the MCA, the Anchorage municipal codes. And so, no, I cannot open a nightclub. And there's definitions what determines a nightclub. And so some of those things for as far as dancing would be a nightclub cannot open. So I can't open.
Without a liquor license? Just for
Say it again.
if you don't
I cannot open a nightclub. That is correct, due to the school.
Okay.
For an unlicensed nightclub.
Okay, so if you say that the assembly and everybody comes forward and says, okay, we're gonna go ahead and approve the nightclub, you need a liquor license in order to do that. But the current liquor license that you hold right now, do you have somebody who has a security interest in that license, and do they have to release that to you in order for you to open up your nightclub? There's about an owing of about $220,000 on it, so I'm trying to find out, do you have to go another route in order to do that too?
No, it has nothing to do with that. That's just an agreement between the person that is concerned with the security interest against the license. Nothing to do, rather, I can open it or not. Or
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Alexander. I appreciate your answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I had myself in the queue. Then I apologize. I was traveling when these drafts were being reworked, and I would not object if we deleted just about everything except for the section addressing the special land use issues that need to continue and the item number 2 there. I know that we have to have one of these boxes checked if we're going to proceed with a protest, because those are the basis upon which we can have a protest. It can be called public safety, or it could be called concentration and land use, because it's a land use issue, not about concentration. But if the document isn't amended tightly enough to remove anything superfluous or things that people feel needs to come out, I think that that's an amenable conversation to have. So I just want to put that out there. Next, I have Ms. Alatel, then Mr. Weddleton, then Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you started to touch on the point that I wanted to raise, which is we raised at the work session, or I raised at the work session, that I definitely wanted the document to track very closely with the specific legal barrier around the school, but that I was also looking for an AIM that very explicitly set out the analysis of the school, because this wasn't a traditional brick and mortar neighborhood school. And I don't see those things available today. And so I don't know how exactly we want to make any amendments, but I think that those issues are key to having a clear record before AMCO, and that it doesn't have any other superfluous information, and that it is very clear in the record how the state statute applies to the specific conditions of this school. I don't know how to remedy those things in this moment, because I'm surprised we don't have them, but I did want to raise those as a concern. Thank you.
Mr. Gates, quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. I think that reading the checks, boxes that are checked, two of them that refer to section 105035 of our code, that it would be helpful if I just described those briefly. I have that in front of me. So our English Municipal Code 105035 is called Operation of Licensed Premises. And section A simply says that persons that apply for transfer or issuance of a license shall comply with B, and B has some numbered paragraphs that says, is that better? So 105035B has says the licensed the person seeking the transfer of a license, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, shall comply with the following operation procedures. And I'm just going to read the headings. B1 is happy hours. B2 is games or contests. No operator may allow or sanction or permit games or contests to be conducted on the premises. B3 is public transportation, making available to patrons access to means of public transportation. B4 is notice of penalties. B5 is availability of non-alcoholic beverages. B6 is compliance determination, submitting to a compliance determination from AMCO officers or APD. B7 is solicitation of purchase of alcoholic beverages for consumption by employees. not soliciting or encouraging patrons licensed to purchase alcoholic beverages. B8 is warning signs, and those are common. We all know what those are. So that's what's in this list that's referenced by those 2 checkboxes. So I thought that would be helpful since you've heard what the issues are. And if there's any changes to any of these checkboxes, you can do that by amendment.
So, yeah, Mr. McLaughlin.
Hi, my name is Francis McLaughlin, and I work in the Municipal Planning Department. I am here not with any prepared statement, but just as a resource to answer any questions that the Assembly may have about our zoning code, Title 21. But there were 2 points that I thought would be useful for the discussion to make. One is that the separation distance requirement between schools and beverage dispensary licenses is in Alaska statute, and I'm not certain of the way that AMCO or the state will measure the separation distance. So we can have an opinion that the separation distance.
This is the statute that specifies how to measure.
Yes, sir. I know the statute very well, and I've been working on these issues for 15 years. And I hear declarative statements about how the separation distance isn't met, and the state may make that determination, but I don't know. I don't know how they'll measure the separation distance. There's no doubt that this is beverage dispensary license and that is a school. I just don't know how they'll measure it. And I've read the statute, but I just they haven't made that determination, and it's up to them, to really delve into it. If they say it's front door to front door, then diagonal walking across the parking lot, the separation distance isn't met to the doorway on the west side of the building. But if the floor plan is changed to eliminate that door, and the business only relies on the door facing 3rd Avenue on the north side of the building, then the separation distance, if it's measured door to door, the separation distance would be met. Anyway, so that's everything I have to say on that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the issue of the unlicensed nightclub. So our zoning code has a use type for every type of use that you could use property for. And we have a use type in our zoning code, which is called nightclub. And we have one for bar, and we have one for restaurant. We have one for single family home, and all those sorts of things. And what it says under nightclubs as that use, which is patron dancing and all of that, use of the dancing is a specific thing categorized in our zoning code. And there's some additional rules on there that if you have an alcohol license, then you have to obtain an alcohol special land use permit and a license. But if you open up a nightclub that does not have an alcohol license, then you have to meet these other standards. And that's where the separation distance of 300 feet from those protected uses comes into play. And so, I was the person on the planning department that took in the application from Mr. Alexander for the unlicensed nightclub application. And what this was about, just to clarify, because I listened to the work session, but I apologize, I wasn't here for that. It's just useful to understand what is that. Mr. Alexander came to the counter and said, I'm paying rent, and I'm eating the cost of it right now. I'm not open. And it's very common for restaurants to want to be open before they receive their alcohol license. And he said, is there any problem? He was proactive in this case. Is there any problem with opening up as a restaurant and a nightclub before I have the alcohol license, because I'm in for permitting and that, or if the license, I'm not approved for an alcohol license. And so you can see how it would be reasonable to ask that question, and I said, well, let me check on that. And I got back to him and said, well, the nightclub, the restaurant's allowed. with or without a license, alcohol license. But for nightclubs, we have these special rules that say you can't open up a nightclub with no alcohol license unless you meet these additional standards, obtain this unlicensed nightclub permit. And we talked about it, and he decided to go ahead and pay for and submit that application. When I took in the application, I said, "Now, did you check to see if there were any churches or schools, and in the vicinity?" And he said, "Yeah, I checked that." And I said, because they sneak up on you in malls and that sort of thing, and non-traditional places. And we were all. I mean, I would have, if I'd known about the school being in that location, I would have informed him that we didn't know, and it was discovered through the process. But there wasn't anything underhanded about that. And I guess that's just I thought a helpful thing to know about what is an unlicensed nightclub and that. Thank you.
Let me make sure my list. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Dunbar, then Ms. Zalatil.
Just very quickly. So he applied for the unlicensed nightclub because it didn't require an alcohol license. Is that right? Or permit, rather. And so does that mean that if the alcohol license does transfer, that the unlicensed nightclub would become a licensed nightclub?
Yeah. So
Okay.
most nightclubs have an alcohol license. It's very common for restaurants, bars, and they all have alcohol licenses. But we have this one subset where if you open up a nightclub which does not have a license, then you have to meet these other standards. That's the application he made because he wanted to be open sooner without an alcohol license. Because they only meet every quarterly. So he doesn't want to wait 4 months. So he would want to, can I open legally per the zoning without an alcohol license? It's just a question. And I say, yes, but only if you apply for this thing. And then he goes and applies for that thing. And there's just nothing.
But it also means that once if it transfers,
it becomes quashed and null and void.
And then the additional requirements of the unlicensed nightclub will fall away.
Yeah.
Next, I have Ms. Zalatil.
Mr. Chair, I have a question and then probably a motion. The question is this a must pass tonight?
Yeah, the dilemma is that the last date of protest is on the 20th, which is this Sunday.
Okay, then I do have a motion.
You have the floor.
I'm hoping to get us moving forward. And what I'd like to, I'm going to make the motion and then I would like to ask the clerk's advice. So on page 3, under section 2, in the area of check boxes, I would like to uncheck the first and the concentration of land use box, uncheck the public safety box, continue with the operation procedures box, and then remove on page 4 the note from the Downtown Community Council. I'd like to start there.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Zalatil, seconded by Mr. Dunbar.
May I ask the procedural clarification question and then speak to the motion?
You have the floor.
Thank you. My question is back up on page, sorry, I have it on the computer, so I'm scrolling. On page 2, at line 26 in the whereas clauses, this is whereas the municipal clerk reports the following status concerning this location: 1, 2, 3, and 4. The question I have is do those need to, is there any connection between those and the check boxes later? That's the procedural question.
Mr. Gates? Oh, wait, who?
Perhaps Ms. Honest,
Ms.
if she's available.
Okay,
as
Ms.
well
Honest,
as
sorry.
those enumerated items.
Thank you, Ms. Honest.
Yes, through the chair, Ms. Alatel. That is part of the normal review process that the clerk's office does for all of the applications for liquor licenses. So this is the culmination of our review from the different departments. And so it does apply as one of the protest items because number 3 states the special land use permit has not been obtained. So it is included in that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Ms. Honest. With that being derived or coming from the clerk's office through their normal procedure, I'm not going to ask to make any additional amendment to that. So the overarching reason for the amendment, I think as you can probably have gathered from my previous comments, is the issue of, I think that the protest should be based on the distance to the school. I don't know if there's a recommendation after hearing from Mr. McLaughlin if the language that is from the Anchorage schools, as we did paragraph 2 on page 4, that I don't know if we need to hedge because they might measure differently, but that's the reason for the amendment. We can take a closer look, I think, at that paragraph 2. I would also personally like to see, but I don't have language at the ready, perhaps a little bit better analysis of how the Step Up program meets the statutory requirements. So I'm open to an amendment to the amendment if anyone is so inclined. Thank you.
Mr. Weddleton?
I have some other questions, but I'll focus on this. I think it sounds like what Meg has proposed here with this amendment, when it's done, essentially puts us at where 2022-80 is. We're just basically saying, hey, there's no special land use permit, and let the state figure out the school distance thing. Am I right? Someone?
May I respond, Mr. Chair?
Sure, Ms. Alto.
That's not the intention. So if that's the effect, please let me know. But I guess with the operational procedures, this is where the numbers starting after the boxes, that are explanatory, they don't seem to go directly with the check boxes. So to me, the operations procedures, I don't know if that's the right box to get to the state statutory requirements. That was something I was asking for, so that's what I chose. If I'm not correct, there are really smart lawyers in the room that can help with that. I need to make that right connection. So it's not intended because it's not only intended to be a protest based on not having the special land use permit. It's also because there's still the separation distance issue that is unresolved.
So, Mr. Welton, anyone else? Hearing none, we have
Can I just verify some? So, Meg, you would check under A, just operations procedures, only that box? And the intent is just to highlight the, is that correct? Just that one box?
Ms. Alto?
Yes, that's the intention because that's the one I've linked most closely with the narrative in number 2 below on page 4. But again, I'm open to legal advice if that is not the correct box to check.
I see we have 2 members of the staff ready to talk. So first, Ms. Honest, and then Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this might help clarify and give the Assembly a little bit more information on what your possibilities are with this. Typically, these ARs are meant to be amended. You have the opportunity to do your facts and findings through this meeting, through the public's input, through the documentation that you've been given. And so this is kind of a rough draft of what the clerk's office was given for the Assembly to review and for you to document your facts and findings off of. So as far as the 3 boxes, that was kind of what we discussed as qualifying for the items that were provided with this AR for the assembly to review. And it is up to the assembly to read through the different items. If you find that any of the information provided to you does prove to have merit that you would find as your facts and findings, you can amend and check a box and put it under that as your facts and findings. So just kind of historical, that's how we've done these in the past. So if that helps with clarifying where you could put some of these, that's kind of the intent.
I don't have a comment.
Okay, and Mr. Halloran did raise his hand.
From my perspective, if you're only going to check one box, the school issue is a land use issue, and I would check the concentration and land use box. But it is really up to the assembly. If you think that that issue fits in any particular box, you check any one that you want. And what's important is not the box you check so much as what you've stated in the paragraph 2 that supports it.
And I would note for the record that counsel nodded his head, but he also raised his hand, so I'll let him speak for himself.
Thank you. And I agree with what Mr. Halloran said. And I just wanted to speak also because the boxes next to operations procedures and also public safety, they both refer to the standards set out in the code section 1050-035. I read that out earlier because the testimony and evidence and documents that you've received to me didn't speak very greatly to those issues, those operation procedures that the license needs to comply with. So it's still though up to the assembly and their determination. So again, has, I guess, the operations procedures, if the applicant, Mr. Alexander, cannot demonstrate prospective compliance with those operation procedures I read out, related to happy hour, games or contests, public access to public transportation nearby, notices of penalties and availability of non-alcoholic drinks, compliance determinations, warning signs, and so forth. So those is a list that's in that code section. I think that was important that you understand that referenced code section and whether you would check that box or not.
So I'm not sure if it would be proper, but I would ask the mover and the seconder if they might consider altering the box.
To which box exactly, Mr. Chair?
The one that both the municipal attorney and deputy municipal attorney and our assembly council recommended, which was concentration of land use. So it's unchecked operations and procedures and public safety, and leave checked concentration and land use.
Can I speak to that request?
Absolutely, you're the mover. Couldn't do it without you.
Thanks. I'm a little bit concerned because it says it will it's the language that makes me concerned. It says will negatively impact community through an increase in the concentration of uses involving the sale or service of alcoholic beverages within the area. And I understand it will not conform with separate standards later. So it seems to place a different connotation on the fact that the school is in existence in the area. It draws away from that versus, and I understand the box is the box, but I think they should be as accurate as possible. So I'm hesitant.
So can I ask a question of council on that topic?
Please do.
Can, in that box, we strike all of the words after location and before the word will not conform and just state the transfer of location will not conform to the separate standards of section 2105020?
I would have to look at the specific ABC regulations governing a protest. I'm not sure where this box came from.
I think Dean said it comes from code.
Yes, the language. Okay. Yes, the the language by each checkbox here, the headings, these all come directly from Code Section 230, 125. Excuse me.
If they're in the code, then the answer is no, you can't change the text of that particular box.
I don't know that that's an assumption I would make, right? Why would we have to copy it verbatim?
I'm not sure that I would have to look at the code and specifically what is required to put in a protest. But if the code says, you have to pick one of these and this is the language they say, then you have to pick one of those and that's the language. If they just say all you have to do is protest, then all you need is the paragraph number 2. But I would have to look at the code to verify that.
Mr. Gates, sorry, we get.
Sorry. So the code section referenced 230, 125, there's a prefatory sentence that says, if I may, in the exercise of its powers and under AS 411-480 and 13A C 104, 145, that's been renumbered, to protest issue, renewal, or transfer of alcoholic beverage licenses with the municipality, the assembly shall consider whether the proposed license meets each and every factor and standard set forth in this subsection as follows. Then it has A, B, C, D, E, which tracks each of these. So it just says you need to consider these issues before you exercise, your vote to protest or not.
So
that's how this forum was developed.
If we have considered these issues and we wanted to simply remove all of the checkboxes, leave number 1 because of the land use issue that's still yet to be determined, and number 2, and strike number 3, would that be sufficient? That since we've sat here for almost 3 hours and considered these items, or does one of these boxes have to be checked?
I would say that based on what Dean just read, what you should do is say, we've considered all these items, and then you list your specific protest as paragraph 2.
Dean, do you think we agree?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Alatil in the queue. And wait, no, I'm sorry. It's Ms. Allard, Mr. Dunbar, then Ms. Alatil. I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Alexander, I just have a couple of questions for clarity. I'm a little bit confused and I need a little bit more explanation. First, Mr. Chair, can I ask the attorney, how far, again, I apologize, how far is the school within the LED where they want to open up? How many feet is that again, please?
The statute refers not to a school, but to school grounds. School grounds being a larger area than a school, and it's measured from the property line for school grounds, and the distance between the boundary line of the property in which the school is located to the boundary of the line where the property line where the proposed nightclub would be is about 20 feet, is my understanding. If you measure from the school grounds, which is the property line of the school, to the entrance to the establishment that's proposed, I don't know the exact measure, but it was less than 200 feet.
So could somebody on the phone please mute? There's noise in the background.
Sorry, I'm in a place where this might be a little.
Oh, okay. Go ahead then.
So it's me, I apologize, Chair. So if it's less than 200 feet, that's the statute says 04.11.410. It's a no-go. Can't even happen with the last statute. So I don't know why we're considering it. But I do have, and I think that's something that's going to have to be addressed. It's against state law. And then the other thing that I would like to bring up is I'm going to ask one more time to Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander, do you own the liquor license outright?
The liquor license is in my name. There's a security interest against it.
So it says in statute, Alaska statute 04.11.4050, nobody else can have direct or indirect financial interest in a business for which the license is issued. So it also, and I'm concerned that we're doing all this, but if you are not outright owner of a liquor license, that you're not even going to be able to have alcohol at LED. But my other concern is that we're less than 200 feet, which is against state law.
So can I comment on that?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay, so here's what I read. So the sections that you guys are reading is pertain to an unlicensed nightclub and not a licensed nightclub. A licensed nightclub in the AMC does not have a distance separation for a licensed nightclub. So the subsections that you guys are reading are pertaining to an unlicensed nightclub. As far as the state statutes are, it's 200 feet, and it's not necessarily, it's not from the property line, as the gentleman, I'm not sure your name is, and I have that here. It's not from the property line, it's from the entrance, the entrance, so the school property, let me see here. It's from the entrance of the
either way,
door.
you're under 200, you're still under the 200 feet.
That's not how I see it. And I think this is
All right, so this is kind of moving towards an unusual debate for our hearing. So not talking over each other, and let's.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over it.
Thank you. So I have a number of people in the queue. Mr. Dunbar, then Ms. Zalato.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this, I think, goes to what we were just talking about. A couple of different points. I read the statute as that Mr. Gates read out, and in the same way, I just don't think that this set of circumstances applies to what 10.50.035 is referring to. And if that's the case, then I would be in favor of unchecking all of the boxes. But then it's still the case that is factually true. Number one, number two are factually the case. So I think that would be my preference, is we leave. I still might not vote for this, but I think that to improve it, you would leave those two in. And I actually do have a question about the third one. So I thought under our code that the community councils had the right to sort of register their objection, and that this was sort of the vehicle by which we told the community councils told the state board. And I guess this question is for Ms. Honest. And so if that's the case, we might want to leave number 3. If they have a different avenue to do it, then I'm fine taking number 3 out. But again, it's number 1, number 2, and number 3 are all factually true. You know, the Downtown Community Council did tell us this thing. And is this the vehicle by which it goes to the board to notify the board?
Ms. Honest.
Through the chair, Mr. Dunbar, the mechanism for community councils to request a public hearing happens with the renewal notice that happens annually. With transfers or new licenses, we are required to give notice to the community councils at which the proposed license will be located. So they do have the opportunity to submit comments to the assembly based off of the notice of that. The state has the same process, so they were able to submit comments to the state as well.
Okay.
So this was included so that the assembly had the concerns about the public safety and the downtown's resolution to consider as part of their documentation for facts and findings. So if you find anything in there that you would like to add as parts of your facts and findings, then I would say yes, you would want to keep that in and detail that the assembly considered the resolution and found public safety concerns and have deemed this part of their facts and findings.
I'm going to interrupt the process right now briefly and ask for a motion to extend this meeting by 30 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Moved by
Can I ask
Mr. Dunbar.
a
seconded by
quick
Mr.
follow-up
Moulton.
to that, Mr. Chair?
Excuse me?
Can I ask a quick follow-up to my question?
First, is there any objection to that motion?
Oh, sorry.
Hearing seeing none, the meeting is now extended to 6:30. Mr. Dunbar, you have the floor.
So would it be nonsensical, or would it be, I think it's factual, but does it make legal sense for us to amend the motion to uncheck all the boxes, but leave the 3 factual statements in?
Or another way to look at it is just to delete all of that language after A before 1.
Yeah.
Mr. Weddleton.
But we're still on Meg's amendment. Should
We are.
dispense of that because we've
No,
really
that's-
moved beyond it.
It's can be part of that conversation, but we got to make sure legal is suggests that that's okay.
Mr. Chair,
You're still
might
waiting.
have your resolution.
Okay, I know you've been waiting. You are next in the queue. While the attorneys confer, maybe are you ready? I see eyes of someone who wants to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
I would say that you could eliminate all of the check boxes. You could either put in a whereas we considered all of those check boxes and then state your grounds, or you could just eliminate those and, the state would essentially trust that you did your job of looking at each of those items.
Okay, so Ms. Zolotel, with the answer to the question.
I hope so. So I'd like to withdraw my amendment and proffer another if the second will agree.
Who was
I
the
agree.
second on? Okay, so this motion has been withdrawn. You have the floor.
So on page 3 in section 2, line 3, where it says beverage licenses within the municipality, comma, then it should read, the assembly has considered, so change the word so it has considered.
Wait, which line was that?
Sure. It is line 3. So instead of saying the assembly shall consider, say the assembly has considered. And then the paragraph remains to the end in line 6. And then remove all of A until you get to the narrative paragraphs 1 and 2, and let those be the next portion. And then the rest of the, remove 3, and then have the rest of the document as it is.
So to restate the motion, on line 3, it strikes the word shall and adds the word has, changes the word consider to considered, strikes everything else to A, and then it strikes line 9, which is only check items that apply. And then it strikes lines 11 through 41, and then stands with the number 1.
And then strike the line 10 through 16 on page 4, which is the third narrative paragraph.
Yeah. That's right. That's all we did. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I was just clarifying with the clerk what we just did. Plus, there's a section on the next page as well that gets taken out, number
Mr.
3.
Chair, I emailed the language to Mr. Gates. I can forward it to the clerk as well.
Yeah, it'd be great if you got it to the clerk and the council, and maybe then can circulate to the members.
It's been sent to Mr. Gates and Ms. Honest.
I don't know. I thought we were waiting, but if we're ready to go, we're good. So we have the motion, we have the amendment. It's been transmitted. Dean, does it make sense?
forward it to you. Yes.
Yeah, so it should be in your email if you have an opportunity to check. But if you don't, one more time, I can go through it for members.
Well, I have the email.
Okay, Mr. Gates has the email.
You want me to read it out?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Arto's email says, remove the check boxes. Okay. It's remove the check boxes, all of them. And in section 2, revise starting after the municipality. So I should, that's in line 3. The municipality has considered whether the proposed license meets the factors and standards set forth in that section, and those potentially relevant pending public hearing to the transfer application for license number 4531 and for license number 4551 are listed below, and then include paragraphs number 1 and 2 and the narrative. And that's the starting at line 43.
There was one slight difference from what had been read or moved. I think the assembly has considered. So leave after within the municipality, comma, the assembly has considered. Slightly different, but generally accurate. So we have Mr. Welton, Miss Kennedy in the queue. Oh, and Miss Jones, the clerk.
I think you may need a motion to extend debate. You did extend the
Over
meeting,
an
but you
hour.
haven't extended debate, and it's been over an hour.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to extend the debate.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Welton, second by Mr. Peterson. Any objection? Hearing see none, the motion is approved. We are now debating through 6:30. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And where were we in the process? I think the question was now off to Mr. Weddleton and then Miss Kennedy.
Well, I will support this motion, and I have some findings to add afterwards.
Okay, thank you, Miss Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize because I was off of the meeting for about an hour, so having come back on and listened to just the last few minutes, I understand the amendment, but I'm actually was hoping somebody could summarize what the actual message of this particular amendment would be to the alcohol board. So what is this intending to state?
Here's what it will state.
Okay.
Ms. Kennedy, I'll just read. Per AMC Section 230.125 in the exercise of its powers and under AS 04.11.480 and 3 AAC 304.145 to protest issue, renewal, and transfer of alcohol beverage licenses within the municipality, the Assembly has considered the special land use after review of the application and all relevant information, the Assembly finds that the special land use permit for alcohol is required by AMC, et cetera, has not been approved for the proposed location. The processing of the application by the Planning Department and approval of the SLUP by the Assembly must be completed. And 2, the Anchorage School District has provided for the review of the Assembly a letter opposing the transfer of these licenses due to the proximity of the proposed location being within 200-foot separation from a protected use as defined under AS 0411.410, the Step Up Academic Program for Disadvantaged Students, which is operated by the school district. Issuance of the license would be in violation of AS 0411.410. Letter is attached as Exhibit A. And then it speaks to under Section 3 per AMC 230120F and the exercise of rights under AS 41180 based on the evidence and information provided and based on the findings. The Assembly respectfully requests the Alcohol Beverage Control Board deny the application for transfer. The municipal clerk, Section 4, the municipal clerk shall provide a copy of this Assembly resolution to AMCO as proof the Anchorage Assembly as the local governing body has stated its protest to the transfer of beverage dispensary license 4531 and 4551. That's what it would be saying.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, thank you.
So we have the question before us, shall it be amended as stated. Seeing no one else in the queue, Madam Clerk, will you please take the vote?
Chair, before you go forward, can I just say one last thing? I apologize, I was trying to unmute.
Thanks. And this isn't on the main motion. This is just the amended motion. So Ms. Eller, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just what you read. So because I know it's a state law, because I know what's gonna come forth with the liquor license, with the individual, with the collateral and security interest, I'm gonna just say no. I'll probably end up voting no, because I don't believe that that liquor license is gonna be pulled, and going forward, it's gonna be pointless. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I think I have Ms. Alatel in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed I may have been a little sloppy in my amendment. I don't know if we want to deal with it now or subsequent, or if it could be considered a Scrivener's error, but in the paragraph on page 3, on line 5, there is the phrase pending the public hearing. We have had the public hearing, and I don't know if we need to dispatch with that phrase.
Which line?
Line 5.
We deleted that entire section. So we deleted, and according to the amendment that I saw, everything after considered.
Oh, that was not what I had said.
Oh,
but
okay. The clerk doesn't see that. The clerk says it's not deleted. Okay. So, Madam Clerk, can you read that section for us as it stands?
Mr. Chair, I have an email from Ms. Zalatel, and it starts with
The microphone is not working again. Also, to the clerk, did we email out that proposed language to the members who are on the phone?
Ms. Honest, could you, oh, you don't have your email. No, I do not think we did, Mr. Chair, but I'll do it after I read this to you again at time. So line 3 says, within the municipality, the amendment reads, the assembly has considered whether the proposed license meets the factors and standards set forth in that section and those potentially relevant, pending the public hearing to the transfer of the application for license 4531 and license number 4551 are listed below. And then we list paragraph 1.
That's
paragraph
sufficient. I think that was the only part that was in question, was what happens after in that section 2. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so to the mover and the seconder, do you want to adjust that so it strikes that
Mr. Chair, I
language?
think it'd be appropriate to take out the phrase pending the public hearing or replacing it with after. Yeah, I would just take out the phrase pending the public hearing because it's happened at this point.
Is it a problem that we add that to the amendment, Madam Clerk, if the mover and seconder agree?
Mr. Chair, I think, is there somewhere else in the AR Andy and lawyers that we've indicated there was a public hearing?
And the clerk has asked the question of if there's anywhere else in the document that references a pending public hearing in that review. The clerk is shaking her head no, the deputy clerk. Ms. Honest. So no, there's only the one.
Then I say after the public hearing. I would recommend saying after the public hearing.
Is that okay with the mover and the seconder?
And the lawyers.
I will take the advice of the clerks and the lawyers for sure.
And I
Thank
see
you,
the
Mr.
thumbs
Chair.
up.
The seconder agrees.
Thumbs up from the lawyers.
Yes.
Okay, so having had the mover and the seconder slightly adjust their motion, I hope that that's been sent out. Ms. Eller, did you receive that email?
Let me check right now. No, I haven't, but all right. I'm voting on something I can't read. Okay.
Well, it'll be to you before we take the vote. It should be
Okay.
just a
thank you. I
second.
appreciate it, Chair.
Yeah. We'll just hold for 1 minute.
Okay, I have it. If you can give me like 35 seconds.
Yep.
I'll read it really quick.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So now the motion before us is to amend the resolution as prepared. And if there's no further comment on this, then the questions before us. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
Ms. Allard,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yeah.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Solotel,
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar,
Yes.
Mr. Perez Verdilla,
Yes.
the motion passes 10-0.
Right, Mr. Weddleton.
Thanks. So I'd like to amend somewhere, I guess it's in section 2. Okay, and we left section A for the findings, but we zeroed everything out, correct? So I'd like to add on section 2 under A, 2 findings. And one is concerns of nearby businesses and residents as to noise, trash, and other off-site problems brought increased scrutiny to these licenses and transfer. And another finding.
You get that, Madam Clerk? Somebody type in. Try that again, John.
I have to read my writing twice. Might be different. Concerns of nearby businesses and residents as to noise, trash, and other off-site problems brought increased scrutiny to these licenses and transfer. Is that right? Or is it this license? There were 2 licenses. I can't read it. I'll give it, I have one more. Let me read that and then I'll give it to you. That work. And then a second finding, there are concerns that a nearby school may not meet separation requirements.
Would you say that one more time?
Sure. There are concerns that a nearby school may not meet separation requirements.
And can I add a third? Ask you to add a third? And the third would be the assembly does not oppose transfer of ownership or does not protest the transfer of ownership.
If you can't read it, call my wife. Waiting for a second.
Huh?
Waiting for a second.
Oh, somebody willing to second those findings?
Second.
All right. Moved by Mr. Welton, seconded by Ms. Zalato.
Actually, Ms. Suzanne.
Oh, Ms. LaFrance, sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
can I please confirm where Mr. Weddleton would like this added to the resolution? Would it be at lines 10 where old number 3 was? And is it a subpart of number 2? Or is it a new number 3?
Oh, none of those, actually. I think we have section 2, and then we left lines 8 and 9, right? After review of the application, all that's still in there, correct? And
No,
these-
Mr. Weddleton, 8 and 9 are out.
Lines 8, oh, those went away? Oh. Well, I would add those back, and then these are the findings underneath that.
Okay,
You know, Mr. Weddleton, I might propose an alternative location just as number 4 at the bottom of the section A. The assembly finds that you do 1, 2. We deleted 3, so we replaced 3 with one of yours, 4 with one of yours, and 5 with one of yours.
Yeah, I think that would work, but at some point, shouldn't we say these are our findings? And we
That's
deleted
it.
where does it
says
say these are?
literally, after review, the assembly finds that.
Oh, I thought you said that was deleted, though.
I think we only deleted check the items that apply.
That was my understanding too, but I heard different.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we left that line in.
That was the intention.
I apologize. I understood strikes everything in A, everything else in A is what the note says. I missed that,
Okay.
so I have it in.
Okay, then I think Mr. Constant idea is fine. So those 3 findings on the sticky note could be 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, 6. Right. I think between us, we have it.
So now we have a motion made by Mr. Weddleton, seconded by Ms. LaFrance, adding 3 findings. Any comment on those items? Numbers?
I hopped into the queue, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Is that Ms. Zalato?
Yes,
You have
I have a question
you
for
have the
Mr. Weddleton. Could you talk a little bit about your additional first finding from your sticky note? As to why you specifically want those findings included and how you believe they're relevant to the protest?
There are a lot of bars in town, and most of them on our consent agenda, everything gets passed. It's no big deal. We don't even talk about them. But some get highlighted because community councils and nearby people raise the red flag and say, hey, take a look at this. So that is why this one's gotten increased scrutiny for us. That's why it's separated out. And, we heard that there were it's racism. And I go, I have no idea what race the owner of this business is. I do now, but I wasn't reading this document. But I do get emails regarding LED. We have, all of us, over the years. And then when this came up, we've gotten quite a number of emails, pro and con. But, the cons are kind of as listed. There was noise, trash, I didn't go into the needles and so on, and feces. We could add that. But those are the concerns we heard. And because of those, this got more scrutiny. The notion that it's racist it never crossed my path, and I'm not thinking certainly it's not a legitimate, racism legitimate criteria. And it's nothing that brought increased scrutiny on this.
All right, so, okay, Mr. Halloran, and, okay, go ahead, Mr. Halloran.
Just a point of clarification, the amendment as stated was to add the 3 items as 4, 5, and 6. 3 was previously deleted, so they'd be added as 3, 4, and 5.
I think 3
We amended the motion.
to leave it out, so then it's 4,
okay.
5, and 6.
3 was not.
Okay, so Mandy, did you have something? I saw your hand up. Okay, so I think next is Mr. Dunbar and then Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. I don't support the additional whereases or additional findings. I think that, again, I don't think I'm going to support this motion as a whole, this item as a whole, but I do want to make it the best item possible if it does pass. And what I appreciate about 1, 2, and 3 is that they are very narrow and sort of take any kind of subjective view out of it. They're just simple statements of the sort of legal case, the factual case. And so John's aren't far off of that, but they're far enough off that I don't intend to support the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and members have asked if those items can be sent their way by email. I know it's tricky. Thank you for the fleet work over there to the clerk staff.
should probably clarify some of Mr. Weddleton's writing before I send it off.
Fair.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, would you please? Thank you. Okay, I'm trying to type and talk and read at the same time. Why don't you read? And can you read and talk? Can you read what that says? You see what I've got here?
Concerns of nearby businesses and residents as to noise, trash, and something off site problems. Wow, Mr. Littleton.
That's what we're having trouble with. Noise, trash, and something regarding on-site problems.
Brought in or some sort of scrutiny. Very difficult.
Concerns of nearby businesses and residents as to noise, trash, and other off-site problems brought increased scrutiny to these licenses and transfer. Scrutiny. I put increased. To these licensees, yeah.
I had of these, it's to these
Yeah.
licenses. To these licenses and.
The transfer.
Okay, got it. And then the second one, there are.
Concerns that a nearby school may not meet separation requirements.
And the assembly doesn't go that.
Okay. The assembly does not protest the transfer of ownership. Okay.
I apologize, Chair. Could Mr. Weddleton say that, just that last part?
I think once the clerk has it written down properly, she'll A, email it, and B, read it. So any second.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Mr. Weddleton's amendment is as follows, that the assembly finds that, number 4, concerns of nearby businesses and residents as to noise, trash, and other off-site problems brought increased scrutiny to these licenses and transfers. Number 5, there are concerns that a nearby school may not meet separation requirements. Number 6, the assembly does not protest the transfer of ownership.
All right, so the amendments were read. Yeah, that's the transfer. The location is still, it's just the location, narrowly constructed. Okay, the amendments on the floor, if no one else is in the queue, members may proceed to vote.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I thought I was.
Oh, I'm sorry, you were, thank you, Mr. Rivera, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will not be supporting this amendment. I appreciate what Mr. Weddleton is trying to do, but first, I just don't see how the concerns in number 3 are a finding. That just doesn't make any logical sense to me. Regarding number 4, I think we already addressed the school issue in finding number 2. And then regarding number 5, I do appreciate adding that one there, but it is in the AIN, so it is duplicative somewhat. I mean, I think it's probably better to have it in the actual AR versus the AIN, but I think we achieved that goal in the AIN. So I won't be supporting this, and I will just say, I think it's a little bit disappointing how easily the sponsor of this amendment rejected a lot of the testimony that we heard today. and I will be talking about that particular testimony regarding some of the racial concerns when we get to the main motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We may need to extend another half an hour. So the motion is before us. The question is, shall we adopt the amendments? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
Miss Allard,
No.
Mr. Peterson,
No.
Mr. Rivera,
No.
Miss Kennedy,
No.
Miss LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Miss Zolotel,
No.
Mr. Dunbar,
No.
Mr. Perez Verdia.
He mentioned he had to step off. He'll be back.
The motion fails 6-3.
All right. Next, we have the main motion before us. Mr. Rivera.
Whoa. I didn't put myself in the queue just yet. I'm gathering my thoughts.
Okay, you're the one who said he wanted to say something, so Mr. Dunbar.
I'll just speak briefly. It's interesting. I was looking at this S version versus the original, and I think I might have supported the original, but I can't support this one. The original is our much more traditional conditional protest, and that's what we do with the vast majority of our licenses. I mean, more than 99% that come to us. We say, here are the thing. The clerk prepares, and then she says, he or she says, here are the things that this licensee hasn't done yet. They haven't met the fire code, or they haven't paid their taxes, or they haven't done X, Y, Z. And then we pass it unanimously. We send it off to the Alcohol Control Board. They resolve the issues, and then it's done. And that is really our traditional role in these things. Now, there is this state legal issue, but again, as Mr. Francis McLaughlin, I was going to call you Mr. McDermott, Mr. McLaughlin indicated, we aren't really state law experts, and we don't know how they're going to measure that separation distance. They might measure it lot line to lot line or door to door. We aren't totally sure. And so it's unusual in my experience for us to base a conditional protest, or in this case, a complete protest, on a state law issue. And so I just don't think that legally that this document is really appropriate. I think it made more sense to do a conditional protest and give the applicant an opportunity to fulfill their legal obligations, and to let the state board resolve the state law issues. And again, in liquor licenses, in the sort of liquor world, the state is the primary arbiter. The municipality has a comparatively minor role versus marijuana, for example, where we have cannabis. We have much more robust controls. At the state level, or for alcohol, for better or worse, it's mostly resolved at the state. And so I would have supported the conditional protest. I don't think I can support this unconditional protest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I would ask for a motion to extend another 15 minutes to 6:45.
So moved.
I heard a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So Mr. Weddleton moves, Mr. Rivera seconds. Any objection? Hearing none, we're extended for an additional 15 minutes, including debate and time. Next, Ms. Zolotel, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Mr. Dunbar's comments. I think this one, this particular license has been difficult. Frankly, I'm a little disappointed. I asked for a lot of information coming out of the work session, and most of it didn't materialize. And that made, I think, today more cumbersome than it needed to be. I don't know the legal effect of if this protest is put forward and AMCO says, wait, we're measuring it and it doesn't have, or we don't have a separation distance problem, then I guess I'm under the impression, the way we've amended this, that AMCO can still grant the license. But if that's not the case, because the word conditional is not there, then I can't support this. So I need that clarification, because I have always felt that this turns on the legal issue of whether or not there's the separation distance for the school. So if I could get that clarification, it will be decisive for.
Thanks, Megan. I'm not a pro, and Mandy can correct me if I'm wrong, but if AMCO decides to grant the license, then what will happen is the special land use permit question will come to us. She's nodding her head that that's correct. And so we don't have the authority to stop the state from granting the license. Nothing in this document. Go ahead.
So the word conditional or not is not decisive.
The word conditional is only intended to provide to the petitioner that it will essentially be granted once the conditions of the document are met by the clerk, who has the authority. We're delegating to them by that conditional process. So the conditional is our internal process, not AMCO, but it just, both of them established AMCO hold in time so they can deal with their process, because our time allotted to make any kind of protest, conditional or otherwise, ends a number of days after, which is this Sunday, the 20th.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Chair. With that, I can support this document because it is not within the clerk's ability to clear the protest. It is only AMCO that can do so. Thank you.
Well, there's one item on there that the clerk would have, and that would be the special land use permit if AMCO granted it. So that's that's the section, I don't know, on the previous page. So, but generally speaking, that's a correct assessment.
Thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess two main comments, and I guess first I'll just start off with saying I'm going to be voting no on this resolution. First is along the lines of what Mr. Dunbar stated. I don't think that we need to add lighter fluid to the fire. The state's going to handle what they got to handle, and best of luck to the applicant of getting through that process. I have no clue. I can't tell you right now what the state's going to do or how they're going to do it. And then, second, sort of getting to the elephant in the room, I guess, is this conversation that we've been skirting around regarding race. A lot of times you will hear me and others talk about systemic issues and systemic racism. And it's clear to me that there is a trend, right? A trend is a trend, is a trend. So to go from 10 to 0 is a trend. Obviously, something has to happen to go from 10 to 0. Obviously, some systemic issue is in place to go from 10 to 0. Now, I don't have the numbers for non-BIPOC licenses, but I doubt there is a similar trend line for non-BIPOC licenses. So, at some point, a duck is a duck. It looks like a duck, it sounds like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. Now, it doesn't mean that someone is out there intentionally trying to perpetuate a systemically racist system. But the results appear to be the same, that there is a part of our community that is being shut out of operating from downtown. And that's a shame. I don't think we should perpetuate such a system. So I definitely look forward to the chief equity officer acting as a bridge between the BIPOC community downtown and the non-BIPOC community downtown, so that we can have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they may be, and hash all of this out so that all parts of our community can feel like downtown is a place for them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, and I feel a little like I'm in a deja vu situation right now. Over 40 years ago, I was in a situation similar to Mr. Alexander trying to get a liquor license. And the city fathers were not very pleased with some of my ideas of what the type of entertainment I was going to be providing. It was disco. And so this was, I'm torn a little bit here because I was fortunate enough to get that, talk them into giving me that liquor license and managed to keep it. So this is a situation where I think that the state is going to make the final decision depending on what their really, how they measure their separation distance. And if it turns out that this location is within 200 feet of that school, they're not going to issue this license. That's just the facts, I think. And but I'm going to let them make that decision. I'm not going to be voting in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing none, I'm going to put myself in the queue. I disagree with you, Mr. Rivera. And I disagree based on one factor, that this is not a question of race. This is a question of geography. The bars that have been protested and closed in that section or have had a real fight, unlike the LED site that is the former site, which there were complaints, but this body did not protest those because they were complaints that we determined weren't valid. In this case, there was a bar that was closed at the corner of 4th and E. There was, and it's literally the corner of 4th and E. There's this one at 3rd and E, and then there was the one that's pretty close to F, 3rd and F. There's one thing in common to those three places, and that's the fact that there are substantial residential uses here. The petitioner brought before us a packet of documents. It was very nicely presented that showed you a parking lot next to his building with the statement that it's a better fit because there's less neighbors here. I asked the clerk to submit to you an alternative view of the same picture. Please look at the color map you have and compare it to what was presented by the petitioner. It's a simple fact that he just pivoted the picture to show you a parking lot, but literally 150 feet to the right is 60 units of housing and 700 units of hotel beds, plus 2 hotels in that section. And so this is disingenuous of a presentation. It's not honest. And I'm sad about that because this conversation has framed people who are trying to keep a little bit of peaceful enjoyment around their homes that have been under siege for years, real trouble. You heard somebody who I wouldn't have said things the way he said they did, but he has video of people smashing his window, defecating on the streets, the police pushing patrons of a club that was right next to their building down the line because they were being threatened with harm out in the open, all on film. You can see the videos. This has actually nothing to do with the race of the individual. This has to do with the geography and the site next to all of those housing units. That's really the bottom line of this question. And a school. So we have in our code protections that are established around certain uses. And the code specifically speaks about the noise, the things that happen, the trash, the things that are associated with nighttime entertainment that are historic and true enough to be encoded in our code. And the fact it's been argued, well, it just moved the door so the school doesn't have to deal with it. But the scenario that I'm envisioning is this nightclub operates. It has all the nighttime uses in the parking lot, that really nice parking lot, which directly affronts the school campus. And as good as the petitioner is or has been stated to be, the fact is I've seen numbers of pictures of the remnants of the day outside of the operation. Glass bottles, other items, just the party goes on. And it's literally going to be up to the school, the teachers of that school, to go out and police the parking lot, because that's what the code tells us happens over time. This has nothing to do with this operator. This has everything to do with that location. I do know that there are bars owned by people of color in the downtown still. One, my friend Bernie recently passed away, but his son is the owner of that bar. But I do recognize the true statements that are being made, that this community does have issues and problems with this. I will be 100% there to say that that is true. Just not in this specific case. These are people whose lives they're trying to keep peace after a number of years of trouble. And there is a restaurant bar that operates now in the place that used to be a nightclub right next to their building. And that place stops operating at, I think, 11:30. And that has ended the conflicts with the neighbors. And so for my part, I understand the concerns and I hear you, and let's work through that. But for me at this time, because of that school, I want the membership to communicate to AMCO on behalf of Anchorage School District, who submitted a letter stating their protest. Anchorage School District is a subdivision of us, even though they're independent. As well, the Community Council, I have a duty to speak for those 48 people who came and testified and voted compared to the 2 who came otherwise. It was a 48-2 vote with 8 abstentions. And so it's my duty to put this forward and ask us to forward this protest. And I am hopeful that this transfer of ownership happens and we can find a location that doesn't have a conflict. And speaking to the conflict, I have a process engaged now that will ask the planning department to help me figure out what's a working solution to the housing issues in relationship to the downtown, because I believe 100% what was stated. We have to ensure our downtown provides and promotes opportunities for enjoyment outside, because that is one of the rights of downtown. But we also have to figure out how to make sure that doesn't impact people whose homes have been in that place for the last 50 to 60 years. That's an old building, and there are some elderly tenants there. So for my part, I understand those who vote against this. And in some ways, yes, the question will be resolved by the state one way or the other before it comes back to us or not. But I am here to stand up for the people who have been begging for relief from this issue for a long time. So I urge a yes vote.
Chair, this is Ms. Allard. I don't know if you've noticed I'm in queue.
I'm looking now. Go ahead, Ms. Ellard.
Thank you. And for numerous reasons, I am going to be supporting Member Constant's stand. This is his district. I respect his district. And I respect the fact that he is sitting assembly person for that district and he is looking out for his community. So I also urge a yes vote.
Anyone else? Hearing and seeing none, members may proceed to vote.
Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
Miss Allard,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
No.
Mr. Rivera,
No.
Miss Kennedy,
Yes.
Miss LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Miss Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar,
No.
Mr. Perez Verdia, the motion passes 6-3.
Next, we have just a few more minutes. I'm going to ask Mr. Rivera to make a statement. Or Mr. Rivera, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Dunbar to make a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I didn't prepare anything. While we were going through this this hearing, the world in Alaska changed. our longtime representative, Don Young, passed away, and the news came out a few hours ago. I had the privilege to run against Mr. Young, and we certainly had our disagreements, but he was an institution in this state. And I think our thoughts and the thoughts of the assembly are with his family and his friends, of which he had many, many, many. So just wanted to acknowledge that on the record before we ended our meeting tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So a little bit out of order, Mr. Weddleton.
There were some statements today that the Downtown Community Council doesn't represent people of color. Go join that community council. They are there welcoming you with open arms. There's nothing stopping you. You should be going to that community council. And if you're not a member, it's on you. Community councils want people in their community to be there to help make these decisions. So please join, if not that community council, whichever one you live in, you would qualify.
We have some other business we have to take on, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we have another item that we're going to reopen the public hearing and ask for a motion to postpone it indefinitely. I guess, do we need to reopen it or can we just make the motion? Okay, so for the purpose of good order, we're going to close the public hearing on AO 2022-80. And then I'm going to ask for a motion to postpone indefinitely.
Motion to postpone indefinitely.
Okay, you closed it?
It's closed, yeah.
Okay. Second.
So moved by Ms. Allard, seconded by Mr. Weddleton. The motion is to postpone it indefinitely. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? Hearing seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you take the roll?
Mr. Weddleton,
Yes.
Ms. Allard,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Dunbar.
Yes.
All
The
right.
motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. That item has been postponed indefinitely. So we have now before us public testimony, final audience participation. Any member of the public wish to speak, now would be a time. You have 3 minutes. So maybe I'll put you on the spot. Yeah, come on up. I'm not sure how public this information is. We have Ms. Moser here, 3 minutes, start the clock, so we're not cheating any of the rules or anything, but so this is your testimony. Anything you want to tell us?
Very much putting me on the spot. I have submitted my resignation to the Anchorage Downtown Partnership, which I've been very honored to serve for the last 3 years. And I just want to take this moment to thank the Assembly. We've worked very closely together on a lot of projects impacting downtown. So thank you for the opportunity, and still love and continue to support downtown, and more to come on that.
Thank you very much. Definitely wanted to get that on the record. So the ADP will be having a change, and Amanda's done her service. And I think her biggest accomplishment downtown was the renewal of the Downtown Improvement District, which exists now for the next 9 years. And thank you for your service to the downtown. Anyone else wish to be heard? The microphone is open. Hearing seeing none, we'll move on. Assembly member comments. What's that? Yeah, that's okay. Just this whole meeting's been out of order because things have changed radically in my world, and I've been trying to do 3 things at once, or 6 things or something. So, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good luck in what you decide your next future endeavor will be. So the Downtown Partnership has been fortunate to have you the last few years. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing seen none, a motion would.
This is Ms. Allard.
Ms. Allard, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, and I actually wanted to say thank you to you, Mr. Chair. You were under a lot of heat for this, and I appreciate you sticking up for your district. And also, Mr. Alexander, thank you for coming forward and testifying tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing, seeing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
A motion to adjourn has been made. We are adjourned.